Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the B&B show. Welcome to Talking Seahawks with the Hawks Nest. Whatever you want to call it, it is here. And there's another thing that is just about here. We are less than 32 hours away from Seattle Seahawks football, and it may not count. It may not be a real game. It may not mean anything in the standings, but it is an actual factual football game that you can watch on your TV or you can watch from within the stadium. I am Brendan. That is Brandon. And we are just about ready to get started on this 2025 season. How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing great, man. That last part of the offseason is always the most brutal. Like when you're coming down from a plane and they're saying we're only a half hour out from landing at our destination, and you feel like it's a 2-hour flight after that point. It's how it feels at the end of as you're just getting into sort of the training camp and start of season. So, hey, we got some actual football tomorrow. I'm jacked.
Right. That's right. We got a few games, and the Seahawks are, they're going to push you. They're going to push you probably past 10 o'clock. I know some people may not be used to that. Got to stay up a little bit late for this one. I'm going to be up making stuff about this game probably well into the AM hours, but that's okay. You only get so many of these games, right? You only get, at most, you're going to get not even 25 in a year, even in the best case scenario. So I'm good with it.
I am too. It is a little odd doing the 7 o'clock start time, though. It's like, geez, you guys, 10 o'clock at night on East Coast time, you're starting this thing up, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you're pushing it at that point. All right. So before we get to talking about this game, which does have some interesting storylines and some interesting things to say about it for sure, last time we convened, it was just about 2 weeks ago. We were talking a little bit about the training camp, but there's been a lot that's happened since then, and you were there for some of it physically.
Yeah.
You were there for some of it. I saw the pictures on X of you with Dan Viennes, you with what's the guy's name who runs field goals? Mookie. Yeah. I saw that. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty great. I haven't had a chance to meet those guys in person, but they're great people. So tell me about your experience back up in the Pacific Northwest, because obviously you've been in California for a little bit now, and you come up for camp once a year. It sounds like. How do you feel?
Feels great to come back home, and especially to have a chance to get down there before when I've been at training camp, just gone and seen the practices, not done the scrimmage. So nice with the scrimmage to go down to Seattle early, just kind of walk the streets down there in downtown, kind of just soak it up a little bit, Brendan from the youth a little bit there. And it was a great experience overall as well. As you said, it's really nice to meet with a bunch of other Seahawks content creators out there. Met Corbin Smith, Bob Condota, reporter out there. Got me able to just kind of run into a few different people. And it was really a really just awesome experience, start to finish. And then the practice and the way that the players were going about their business on the field was also just kind of nothing but encouraging, really. You don't have any real, worries or concerns coming out of this. Last year I went to camp and I told you at the time, like, man, Sam Howell is going to be brutal. This is going to be a tough ride. And it turned out to be that when you did have to put him on the field in the rare moments you did have to. I don't think I have anything like that this year that I can think of as any sort of real major negative coming out of it, but just really a lot of positive because everything just seems so encouraging all the way down the line with this team right now.
That's kind of the sense I've gotten too. The defense is ahead of the offense, but that's to be expected, I think, for a few different reasons. The defense should be better. The defense is the same defense from last year, mostly the same players, whereas the offense has swapped out so many things. So I think that's to be expected. And I don't consider that to be a big negative because the formula for the team this year was always going to be the defense. The defense needs to be kind of leading the way here, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So to your point on that too, I think as well the offense is starting to come along and take a little bit of that rope back, even in my couple days of being there from where it started, where the defense dog walked the offense in the first day. Offense started to take more of that back over the corresponding days. And then you're hearing this week early on, it sounds like they've had a couple of good days of practice there too, in addition to that. So maybe they're starting to kind of make up a little ground.
Right. Yeah, after the mock game, which I guess isn't really much of a mock game anymore.
No,
I think that was a Pete Carroll thing. It's more like a set of randomized activities that take place on Lumen Field. Seems like Pete was the one who really liked making it an actual game. But my understanding was that the offense, everyone who was at the game said the offense is so far ahead of where it was last year with Grubb.
I would reckon to guess that that is correct, and that you can already feel some of the things that are the immediate benefits of having Kubiak in here, just by how he's motivated to call the offense, the way he can, I mean, sequence plays. Brendan, they did a lot of, they would do fly sweeps outside zones, and you could see them setting a play up to come back to kind of a pitch play the other opposite way that looks like it's coming off the fly sweep. It's a lot of plays that look very similar together that you can't really tell, what is really coming. The commitment to the running game is night and day difference from last year. When you're at training camp last year, Brendan, it did seem like there was a little bit of an outcropping of what became during the season. That being that the offense became too much ingrained in trying to hit the deep shots down the field. And it was working at training camp, and Gino was hitting some spots down the field, but there wasn't, this offense is a lot more running the ball. You feel the short and the intermediate attack and how they're trying to work that. And it feels like it could go together a little bit better. That, we get to NFL Sundays, you can get away with doing those shot plays on a practice field in training camp. We get to NFL Sundays, they take those away. What do you got now? Grubb didn't have any answers. I think this team is going to have answers, and they're going to run the ball, Brendan. I mean, they were play after play after play, goal line, tight, two tight ends. They were really featuring a lot of run over all 3 days.
Yeah, that is the indication I'm getting as well, and it's the right thing to do with this personnel, with this team, the way that it's positioned. So beyond just the general sense of things being good, when you were there last week, was there anything like specific regarding a player or a couple of players that that's got you really excited for this upcoming season?
Nick Emawari is going to be worth the hyperbole. He's going to be worth people. And I'm not a guy, as you know, with me, that really tends to try to look at rookies and go completely overboard on them in that. But this guy's got 3 interceptions in training camp, all of them legitimate, all of them him making a play, jumping a route, taking away a 9 route, tipping a ball back to himself in the end zone for an interception. They're all legitimate, and he's showing up as a blitzer. He's showing up in the run game with the speed coming back across the field in a major way. This guy does not look like a guy who's just getting into his first NFL action, his first training camp. He looks like a vet already out there, and you can only wonder what kind of weaponized piece this is going to be for Mike McDonald's defense when you're able to put him out there, understanding he doesn't have to be a starter, that he literally can be just this chess piece you move throughout your defense in any way Mike wants to. And he's using him everywhere. He's got him blitzing off the edge, got him back there at safe, got him back in the slot at times. But Brendan, the stuff that you're hearing about him is completely legitimate. You're feeling the speed, the size, the length. It all showed up there at practice over basically all 3 days that I got to watch him. And he was outstanding on that side of it. The rookie on the other side you're hearing about too, Torrey Horton, who keeps coming on stronger and stronger and stronger. This kid is legit, Brendan. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the highlight with him in the back of the end zone where he's got to jump up, reach back over the back of the player that's covering him because it's a little bit of an underthrown ball. His ball tracking, his ability to high point a ball, his ability to reach out there and extend those arms away from him and pull a ball in. It doesn't have to be in your body. It doesn't have to be a real easy completion. He can go up there and go get it. This guy's looking like, I know as Condon said, maybe one of the steals of the draft. And as great as Emawari's been, I'll tell you what, this kid's going to be pushing. Horton is in this rotation of receivers. I think he's already overtaken Bobo. I think he's right on the heels of Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Wouldn't shock me if we get to the end of the year and this kid ends up becoming your 3rd wide receiver, Brendan. He looked really good.
Right. And we all know Kupp is going to miss a couple of games. So when that comes, maybe Horton is the guy who makes it not so bad that we have to miss Kupp for a little bit.
I could see it, and he just keeps making plays every day, and he seems to be coming on stronger. Even more reports I've heard over the first couple of days of camp here with him. So it's a guy that if he ascends, it wouldn't be shocking. And you and I scouted him. I just keep coming back to our conversations on this guy where we go, I don't understand a guy with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons who has a half season kind of cut short in his final year. Yes, smaller college, Colorado State, but the production is so legitimate there. How do you just turn away from that, especially when the film shows a variety of skills that he's now displaying at camp?
Yeah, I think maybe it was the quarterback there, because when I watched Colorado State, it was a lot of shallow crossers because their quarterback was so limited. That probably got in the way. And also, of course, the knee. And he actually said that he was less than 70%. I don't know if you saw that comment from him in a press conference. At the combine, when he ran a 4.41, he said he was less than 70%. So one thing that this wide receiver room does not really have is speed. Maybe we do have speed after all. Maybe we just needed to wait a little bit for it to come out. Maybe.
He creates separation, Brendan. And even on that throw in the back of the end zone where he had to reach back, if the quarterback puts it out in front of him, he's got an easy toe tag drag swag in the back corner of the end zone. he has to jump back, reach back, then get the toes back down afterwards. So, he is creating definitely some openings there, and it's against legitimate corners at times. It's against, not just the back end corners on the roster. Not to mention the corners played pretty good for me watching him throughout the days of camp. So his ascent and his rise, I think, is noteworthy, and he is going to be a player on this team. And in a lot of ways, Brendan, maybe a guy who's so good in his ascent and where he's come that drive maybe to be looking at a guy like, maybe you're kicking the tires on a Terry McLaurin, seeing where Washington's at with him, or another wide receiver around the cut down days. I don't know if the team is going to be as active in that way for this position, because I think they're going to feel pretty good about what they got.
Yeah, I never really bought into the McLaurin stuff in particular. This is not really an offense where you're going to be throwing that kind of money at a receiver, I don't think, especially when you just chose not to.
Oh, especially when you got JSN, you got to pay a year from now, because I do think they will pay JSN, but I agree to your point. You're not paying two guys at that kind of high level, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, what do they call it? Robbing Peter to pay Paul? Like, I don't know.
Bengals are the only team that's really doing it right now. Maybe you could say the Miami Dolphins have kind of quasi done it too with Waddle and Hill there, but in neither situation has been a smashing success up to this point. And going that route, I know the Bengals got to the Super Bowl, so that is a success, but I don't think it's going to work now that you have to pay them both at the same time. I think that you're going to see your cap get crushed if you try to do that. And you can afford one, you just can't afford two. You can afford one and a good, well-paid one, but just not two $30 million guys, right?
Philly's pushing it, right? Philly's pushing it with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, I guess. They're close.
They only get away with it, though, because they've gone so extreme with the void year crap that they've taken that so far down the line that it's just, that's the way they've been able to fit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wonder if other teams are eventually going to have to start doing that to keep up, because it is such an advantage in the short term to do that. I wonder if these other teams are going to be like, well, it's either this or we can't compete with them.
It's possible. I know you got guys like Jerry Jones looking for the new CBA to be one where they're going to push this kind of stuff out and try to eliminate it. So that's where also you might see general managers thinking the new CBA is going to change the rules on us. If we set a bunch of void year contracts up, we could end up screwing ourselves if those rules come down in that way. Something to kind of track and monitor.
Yeah, and back to Emin real quick, because he was listed at about 6'3", 230, but Corbin was talking during camp about how he's convinced he's actually like 6'4.5", 240, maybe even 245. And we got some slightly uncomfortable news about Tyrese Knight yesterday, where his knee is going to get looked at. They're not quite sure what's going on. Do you think maybe Emin could also play linebacker in the event of us not having one of our two starters for a period of time? Because the next man up is Pat O'Connell or Drake Thomas. You might rather have Emin out there in the box. Like, do you think that might work?
Possibly. I mean, the tough part about this defense with the linebackers is that there's a heavy need for these linebackers to be able to get off blocks, that you're not going to be created with the front four, essentially a situation where they're going to protect you and allow you just to run free and wild. You got to get off. And that's something that is a centerpiece point of Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones's game is their ability to get away from those second level climbers. And that's where I would wonder with Emin is if he would be as comfortable in doing that, being that, he hasn't done a lot of that. And so that would be, I'd have a little bit of worry. I mean, in a pinch here and there, maybe a little bit, but I think that he's going to be better used if he's a linebacker in that way in moments of where you've got him here and there at the position as opposed to 24/7.
Right. The sense I've gotten is he's going to be the full-time nickel, basically, which is very interesting. But the point there is to keep him close to the line of scrimmage, because that's where his game seems to be the strongest. And I like it.
And pumping a little bit of Witherspoon to the outside, because Witherspoon looked good and well acclimated to the outside. He had an interception on Scandling on a fade route in the back of the end zone where he stacked. Yeah, he stacked Scandling, gave Scandling no pathway to the ball, and then just went up and jumped up and made the pick. And he had another near pick at one point as well. I believe he was playing on the outside in that moment too. So Witherspoon's looking, comfortable. I'll say too, just as a kind of sidebar on this, with Witherspoon to the outside, you would start to think maybe there'd be a little bit more drive this season to going to man-based concepts. And that's just what you're going to be, I think, getting a little bit with these more stack boxes and the heavier blitzes. I had one point on, I believe it was day one of camp. It felt like Mike McDonald blitzed off of a stack front like 7 or 8 times. It was pretty crazy in that way of things. So impressive. I think that what you're going to bring that many blitzes this year, and I think it's going to be dialed up from 22, 23 last year. That does mean man-based coverage concepts on the back end. We know Woolen can do it. We know Witherspoon can do it over on that other side. And then that makes more sense now. Why do you drive in Emawari into the slot? Because he can do it too, but now you're putting him kind of in his best sort of little position there. And being able to, now you can move him all over. If you want to bring him in as a linebacker, as kind of his pre-snap set from the slot, kind of condense it down and be like, hey, you don't know what we're going to do post-snap. He might slide back out to the slot. He might play back down in that front seven. I think that gives you a little bit more versatility with him to best utilize that size and physicality he brings.
Right, I like it. And we got Peter Go Hawks here with the $2 donation. Nick is my next jersey. Going to be a superstar here. I think he's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for what he's going to bring for sure.
Yeah, Corbin talked on the show that we did on Saturday. He spoke about the fact that I've never really heard Corbin ever talk about a rookie like this, but he was mentioning I wouldn't be surprised if this guy puts a gold jacket on someday. And I can't remember Corbin ever kind of speaking like that haphazardly about players or trying to gas players up here and there all the time. So I think it just speaks to not only how impressive for what I saw, it matched to what I saw, but I'm sure the other impressive things he's seeing throughout his practices and days at camp, in addition to bring that kind of comment out. So when we're talking about this guy, it ain't falsely inflating it. This guy is going to be one hell of a player for this team.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I imagine that one way or the other, he's going to be pretty consistently on the field at this point. I wasn't sure when we first drafted him, but I think between 3 safety sets, slot corner, and maybe even a little bit of linebacker stuff, he's going to be on the field very consistently at this point. I don't know how you keep him off.
I think that if he had come out and played a little bit like you might have thought he would with, okay, the guy's really talented, but he's got some rawness to him. He's got some stuff to figure out. I think you and I would have both thought, you'll mix him in here. You'll find some packages for him. I think his level of play throughout training camp is driving the coaching staff to make it impossible not to put him on the field. He is one of your best 11 defensive players. You've got to find a way to get him out on the football field.
Yeah. And I'm sure once the season starts, he's going to make some mistakes. There are going to be some plays that look a little bit rough, but I'm pretty willing to live with that right now. I think that we have the defense to cover for it, and I think that he'll be all the better for it in the long run.
And I think he'll show you the flashes on the other side too, right? You'll get the good as well as, like you say, with some of those bad moments that pop up.
Right. So on the not so great side, maybe the one thing out of camp that I, from my perspective, have heard that is concerning, really, would be Christian Haynes, because it was getting rough there for a little bit with what we're hearing about Christian Haynes. I got a Discord full of people that are now thinking he's not going to make the roster. I've got people on X saying he's not making the roster, just that his strength is so poor that it's untenable, and the rest of the stuff, like the strength alone, is disqualifying. Now, last couple days, we've gotten a little bit of a better indication that maybe he was just injured, and the injury just came at a really bad time, and now Bradford's kind of in pole position, and maybe Haynes can catch on as like the backup left guard. But what do you see? What are you thinking about Christian Haynes right now? Because what we've heard has not been great, even no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. And when you're watching what they're doing with them and how they're doing it, and I don't have a really great answer on this, because it could be that there is a situation here that's going on where it is the injury that's causing the problems here, and that they're trying to work around that. He was not out there at right guard any of my days in camp. He was sorry, one sec here. Bear with me one sec.
No problem. Oh, your mic's out.
Sorry, Cat's going crazy on me as soon as I go live. And so he didn't play at right guard. They had him at center on the first day. He's snapping snaps over the top of the center's or top of the quarterback's head, or they're coming in low. Then he's held out of practice for a whole day where they just don't have him out there. Like, he tries to go out one point and the coach grabs him. Now, is it the pack? Maybe. We didn't. By the third day, they had actually put some kind of little vest thing, whatever, upon him now by the third day of camp. And so, now you're going, well, okay, maybe the pack is the thing that's factoring in on this. But then you just mentioned the sliding to the left guard thing. Okay. And now we're over here. And so I feel like those people are saying that they don't think he's going to make the football team at this point. I mean, I'm starting to have my worries and concerns that that's going to happen too. In fact, if I was betting, I'd probably say probably doesn't. You're not out there playing in training camp and they know you need the reps, unless the injury is just that bad. And maybe that's what we'll come to find, is that he's got to be IR'd because the injury is what it is. But if it's not that, then this is absolutely going down that path and that road, because they don't seem to have a plan for him and they don't seem to know what to do with him. And he's not taking any job and running with it.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that backup left guard thing is probably going to be the way this goes, because we don't have a really good left guard candidate to back up Zabel other than Haynes. I think that's kind of that's a free spot that he can take. And theoretically, it makes a little bit of sense, because if Haynes's problem is he lacks strength, but he's got athleticism, left guard's a little bit easier for him to pull off. But, we didn't draft this guy to be a backup. We didn't draft this guy to be a backup in year 2. Honestly, we didn't draft him to be a backup in year 1. It happened. It sucks, but we were moving past it. I thought for sure he was going to win one of the starting jobs this year. And, it's shocking. And I thought this guy was pretty much money in the bank, at the very least going to be a good player, maybe not a great player. I thought he was pretty much a sure thing to at least be NFL caliber, and to see how little we seem to have valued him so far is shocking to me.
I'm in the same place with it. I think it just comes down to sometimes you make misses in the draft. And John's had a pretty good track record recently of doing well at the top of the draft, which maybe makes this more jarring, that you've done so good at finding your guys even into the third round that can be players and can give you something. But it kind of is what it is at this point, where you are a year and a half in. This is a training camp. The guy's not getting practices. I think you do start to kind of arrive at the spot where you go, look, I know we got to give certain guys the time and that, but this guy was supposed to be pro ready. He wasn't supposed to be Bradford coming out raw. In fact, Bradford's played 3 years in this league. He's the same age as Christian Haynes. So it's to me a little bit at that point of, this is the type of prospect that is tending to be one where if it's at this point, it's at this range, and injury is not the issue, and that's the part we just don't quite know about, then yeah, you're probably heading down a little bit of a dark road on this where it's just not going to fit. It's just not taken.
Yeah, and I can't even really take John to the cleaners over it, because I thought he was going to be good too. I think pretty much everybody did. I think there was universal consensus this guy was a late second, early third round pick and was pretty safe. So sometimes stuff just happens.
I think that's to your point why I can't get mad at this one, either one. I can definitely drag John on certain picks where you don't understand why you're going here. This is too early for that. You gave up this for this. But this is one where, like you say, the consensus is not just one of draft pundits, but people that are connected to NFL circles and how they talk about this kid. And universally looked at as a pretty safe guard prospect who may not have the huge ceiling, but has a strong floor. And you're going to get to that floor really quickly. It's tough. I feel for John on this one, where I just can't drag him on this one, because he made a priority of the offensive line. He found to look for the safe prospect, made a priority of grabbing him early into day 2 of the draft. Something just not all moves work out. There's definitely a little bit of a rolling of the dice with all of these ones.
Yeah, if I were him, I'd be working on center every day. I'd be working on snapping balls. That may be the best way to play this out, because I don't think Oluwatimi is good enough to have that starting job just locked up. So maybe there's something there.
Agreed. I think with Oluwatimi, they're kind of going with him now, but certainly there's an opening there for him. And let's face it, I don't know if there's really a pathway for him in the future in the NFL at guard for Haynes. That this is really, you may not just be good enough. You mentioned left guard. I mean, maybe the thing with him being over at right guard, especially in UConn, is there's a lot of help in pass pro. Why he did so well in pass pro at UConn was because he's getting the center doubling a lot of times over there and helping him out in that way. So you're not going to get that as much once you go to left guard. You're out there more on the island. You're dealing with 3 techs and not 1 techs. He's not the most athletic guy with his ability to move in space, especially in pass pro. So I get a little worried about him going there, that's going to be a fit either, because it just doesn't seem well suited to his game.
Yeah, everything I've heard indicates he's just got no real strength. Like, he just gets completely bullied by 1 tech. So I think you got to get him away from there at the minimum.
They definitely are. They're not letting him get any run there. So that seems to be to your point, that's definitely their conclusion on it as well, it seems like.
Honestly, that's the only thing at a camp that I feel like is really negative. We've had a couple of injuries, but every team's got that. And honestly, the injuries we have had so far, they're the injuries that, if you have to have them, those are the ones you're okay with. Like, McIntosh, I feel bad for him, but I think he was going to be our 4th running back by the time the season started anyway. I think this team really likes Damian Martinez, so I can live with it.
I can too. You run back was your strongest position, probably coming in of any positional groups on this team, as far as depth goes, at least. So you're okay there. And you are, like you said, you're going to get injuries. You're getting cross back. This stuff is going to happen. We've got no major out for the year kind of injuries. I mean, look at the Cardinals right now, down 2 cornerbacks, another corner. You know, like you have things happen with certain teams where the stuff can really riddle you in training camp, and that's not been the case. So I think that this is as good as you could hope for. No training camp contract disputes. Nobody pissed off. They're not getting their extension. Everything seems to be everybody's pointing the same direction. Everybody's driving as hard as they can to make this team something a little bit better than what they've been. And nothing but good vibes, man.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am as well. Pending what we hear about Tyrese Knight's knee, hopefully in the next couple of days. If we get bad word there, that would flip things a little bit, because I don't know if we can survive that, because the drop off is pretty massive. But
hopefully with it being where they're getting it checked out, but he's been kind of playing on it. It's not that ACL thing that if there is an issue, it's MCL or a meniscus thing. And those things, if it is, then worst case scenario, it can be a 4 to 6 weeker to getting him back. And you're early enough on to where if you run that now, you're just about getting him back by week 1, if not week 2 or 3. And so I expect that to be the worst case on this if they see something on the MRI.
Right. Ming Lee, thank you for the $9.99. Love the B&B show, and thanks for what you guys do. Don't mean to switch off topic on the training camp, but question on what do you guys rate this year's off season so far? Well, I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
Well, I got to say that I'm one of those ones that was in a little bit of a camp that was different from so many fans out there, Brendan. I think maybe yourself included on this, in that I looked at the offseason as being one that this was a time for you to take the 1 step back for the 2 step forward. I know I've said it a bunch, but I really felt that was a necessity for this team to not sign the 2 biggest contract extensions on their books for the foreseeable future if they were going to do so. And I think that they did that. They took that 1 step back. They're making smart moves. They brought in, I think, the ideal offensive coordinator for this system. I think that you've been able to retain all this defense, add on this defense, continue to build for Mike McDonald on this. It's one where the fruits of this may not come this year in 2025 fully, but I believe the fruits are going to come within the long term. And a big reason why is because you made hard decisions this offseason to do this really right, to be willing to maybe hurt a little bit this year, not guaranteed, doesn't have to happen, but that you're willing to hurt maybe a little bit this year to make sure you're free and clear for the future to go and hit the rocket boosters and take this thing to the stratosphere.
Right. Yeah. I don't think we had a good offseason. I don't like our offseason very much at all. I think the inertia of this team is still going to allow us to have a pretty good season. I think there are some things with this team that are kind of unstoppable, in the sense that the defense is going to be a lot better. And I don't think any element of this team is going to be bad, but I have a lot of problems with the offseason we just had. If I had to rate it or grade it or whatever, I'd go like C minus. I like Kubiak. I like D-Law. The rest, I like some of the draft picks, of course. When you have 11 draft picks, some of them you're going to like. Other than that, I'm not quite so sure.
It's fair. I'm more B plus A minus, but that's again just because to me this wasn't about individual moves and what you made. This was about sea change conceptually in your philosophy and what you're trying to drive towards. And I feel like you made some tough decisions, but you made the right decisions in doing that. DK Metcalf would not have been a fit for this offense. Just wouldn't have been. Would not have been. He's not a West Coast offensive guy. He doesn't run a full route tree. That's not going to create separation in short spaces like you need wide receivers to do in this offense. I love the guy. I've got his jersey right behind me here. He's going to be revered for a long period of time. But sometimes these are the tough decisions you have to make. Sometimes letting go good players is tough decisions you got to do in the NFL. And if it's right for the organization long term, then it's the right choice in the decision. I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my concern about the long term too would just be what are you doing at quarterback now? Because you've got the Milroe thing. Does drafting Milroe mean you're not going to look to get another quarterback next year or the year after? Are you going to just hold everything for him? And I mean, I've made my thoughts on Milroe pretty clear by now. Anybody who watches my content knows how I feel about him as a future quarterback. So I'm concerned about that too. What does that say about where we're going the next couple of years? I don't know. I got some reservations here for sure, but the inertia of this team, I think, will allow us to still be good right now. and probably good for a little bit until we hit a really tough schedule or something like that.
Well, and here's the thing, looking at 3 days of camp too, I'll say this, for those that are going to clutch and hold on to the thought process that Sam Darnold is suddenly going to turn back into New York Jet Darnold, that isn't happening. That's not occurring.
Yeah, he's not that bad. Of course, I would better not.
No, but I mean, again, it's the thing we go back to on some of the debate was that there's somehow this diametrically huge difference between Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. And watching Sam Darnold play on 3 days of camp, watching how he carries himself, watching the throws he makes, watching his fit to this offense as a rhythm passer, this guy is not going to be some huge backward step from Geno Smith. I'm just telling you that now. It's not that way. And if it's being spoken about it like that, it's being hugely overstated to a major degree. He's going to be able to run this offense. Is he going to give you the Minnesota Viking last season? I don't know on that. But do I know that the floor is going to be a lot higher than a lot of 12s have talked about Sam, where it's sort of like, well, the reputation that carried him through most of his career is the one that is the overriding one for me, not what he did last year with Minnesota. Oh, that was Kevin O'Connell. Oh, that was the best receiver in the sport. That's what allowed him to do that. It's not the case. And especially after doing a lot of investigation on Sam this offseason and looking a lot of his tape through this offseason, I come back again and again to like the guy's turned a corner here. Does it mean he's a star? No, it means that Geno Smith was right on the edge of being a top 10 quarterback for you over the past 3 years. Sam Darnold's going to be right around a top 10 quarterback for you probably over the next couple of years. So if that's the case, it becomes less to me to drive this over to the point of my Brendan with this is just, I agree with you on the trepidations with Jalen Milroe, but it may become irrelevant because Sam Darnold may be the guy that is able to take that job and run with it well enough, especially with a dominant defense, especially with a great special teams, especially with a really, really nice run game. I think he can get the job done.
I hope so. It makes this whole thing a lot easier.
I just think if he's going to be as bad as people think he was going to be on this, that if I'm watching him at training camp, that his performance is not matching up to what I saw from a Geno Smith last year. Decision-making, wild throws, comfortability with the offense head, not holding onto the ball, tapping too long, not making silly throws right and left. His mechanics are as clean as you will find on this team. His footwork is the best of anybody on this team as far as that goes. Again, a rhythm-based system that you're operating off of, it's a perfect fit to him. You let him hit that back foot, you let him let it rip, he's going to put the ball in the right spot with velocity. And it showed up time and time again throughout camp over 3 days watching those three quarterbacks. And Locke's come a little bit forward, and Milroe had some moments too. But there's a steadiness with him to me that just, I became way more confident coming out of camp with 3 days watching it.
I have heard he's been very good. That is the sense that I've gotten in camp so far from the people who have been talking about it and the stuff I've seen as well, that he's looked good. So,
and we don't need him to play like a superstar. You know, if we're talking about this team getting to a contending team and the type of team they're creating, there's those teams like your Bills where it's all about the quarterback. All about the quarterback. I get it. This isn't the team that you've constructed here, though. You've created what's going to hopefully be a dominant defense, what's hopefully going to be a top 5 special teams unit. You're going to lean on the run game and have balance in your offense. So what you need the quarterback to do is to lessen the mistakes, keep the chains moving, convert third downs, and put up just enough points because this defense is going to carry a lot of the water here, I feel like, in what they do. And I can see how that plan does come together, especially with a weaker schedule this year.
Yeah, that schedule is one thing I'm really clinging on to right now. I think that schedule, like you could easily just kind of trip your way into 12 wins with a schedule like this, I think. Sure. And, maybe that doesn't bode well for the playoffs, but you'd still get there. And who knows what you're doing by then.
It's an improvement off last season with McDonald in the year 2 if you get to 12 wins, regardless of making noise in the playoffs, to your point. So you are making progress at that spot. And again, it goes back to, you made some tough decisions this offseason. You're going to set the stage to have yourself in great cap situations for the future to go and make some aggressive moves to top this thing all the way off if you need to. And I would expect them to do that point if it goes to that place, 12 wins. But I could see it too. I could.
Let's see here. Seth, thank you for the $4.99. How has Abe Lucas looked? Does it seem like his knee issues are behind him? I haven't heard anything bad, but what did you see, Brandon? What did you see?
First great thing is that there is no brace on the knee. So there's not even a, basketball kind of like rubber brace on that thing, right? He's just going out pure raw dog in that knee on the football field. And so it's cool in that respect of things, in that you see him out there feeling good enough about it. He's moving pretty good. He looked all right to me. It got a little bit tough at sometimes on some of the days of practice because they would run this, goal line stuff. And so you just got a pile of bodies on a pile of bodies, and then it just becomes a pile of bodies from the berm and you're trying to separate out. You definitely at times felt like you needed binoculars a little bit there. He looked good, though. I don't know that I saw dominance, but then Corbin said that what he was seeing from Abe at times throughout camp was that he was looking dominant. And the way that Mike McDonald's talked about him is that he's looked really good there on that side too, through, and making this system go, his finish that he brings, Lucas. And so he looked good out there. He didn't give up any real bad pressures outside of one here or there. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence was giving it to everybody, and Lucas definitely struggled with him. I mean, when I tell you on the first day of camp that Lucas Lawrence was just, I can't overstate this enough. He was completely obliterating the run game. They were putting him strong side, tight end. It didn't matter. He was beating the block every single time and just taking the run game down. I mean, the guy is just a monster against the run. So Lucas had his hands full at times against Lawrence, but he looked okay. He looked solid.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything bad. That's all you can ask for right now. I haven't heard anything negative. The D-Law thing, he seems like one of those guys that takes practice very seriously. He seems like one of those guys that really goes all out, even in that situation. And even before we get to a game, even before we get to the actual season, it seems like D-Law, that contract's already working out because of the impact he's having on the rest of this team. And I'm pretty on board with that.
He looks like prime Lawrence to me out there. As the health is going to be the big thing with him if that can hold up. But he is big. He's long. Like Mike said, he looks like a giant out there for whatever reason. Even though he's like 6'3", 6'4", it just looks bigger because of those arms and just the size of him. But he's also a guy who's so refined with his pass rush. He's got moves for days. He's got counters. He can set guys up. He's going to be a problem, I think, on this defense and a hell of an addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was one I remember because I streamed the whole first week of free agency because I've been doing that for a few years now. I thought D-Law had already signed with the Lions for some reason when I heard we signed him, and I was really excited for that because that's a guy. I'm not going to say he's exactly like Clowney, but I think he gives you those Clowney vibes where he's a really good all-around edge player, little oversized, somebody who uses his strength. Somebody who isn't going to get a million sacks, but he's creating disruption. I really like that signing. I'm really liking the way it's shaping up so far.
Me too. I think that's a great comparison on this, and that he gives you that pure power edge. He brings you a skill set that you don't quite have along through the rest of the roster and what he adds on to it. And so just another guy that you wondered if there was going to be something, maybe as much left in the tank with the Cowboys letting him go, but there's something left in the tank with this guy. He's going to be a factor on this team off the edge.
Yeah, he played 4 games last year, right? Not even 4 games actually. And they let him go reasonably. I think it was probably time, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have anything left for sure.
Yeah, no. And guys have times where they get snake bit for a year or two and they can kind of bounce back in. Helps that you're going to have a pretty deep rotation of edge rushers you can attack this with. So hopefully theoretically keeping him relatively fresh throughout the season. So you don't have to bring as much of the injury into play where, you can just stay out there and keep rolling.
Mm-hmm. Hawks Coots, thank you for the $6.99 Canadian. Yeah, Hawks Coots, or is it Hawk Scoots? I don't know.
Hawk Scoots, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm a little worried about the special teams. Jay didn't have the best year. We're betting a lot on D'Anthony Bell, but D'Anthony Bell's a good special teamer, and he's the guy we brought in this year, I think, and that should help, right? D'Anthony Bell's a big part of this.
Yeah, I think you're hopeful on this. I echo his thoughts on it. I think it was a bit of a rough year there for Jay coming from the college system. I don't know yet even if he's a grade A kind of special teams coach or even a really good one. So it's remains to be seen whether he's got that in his bag or not. You need the special teams unit to be one of the strongest in the NFL for this plan to work. It can't be just the defense is dominant, the offense is holding on, and that's going to lead you to a great team this season. The special teams, you put as much money in the kicker position as anybody in the NFL. You put as much punter money into the position as anybody in the NFL. You are signaling that this is a part of the team that's the third rung, that's as important as the rest in a lot of ways, in certain respects. And so it's got to be that on the field and how it performs, or the plan's not going to fully work out. So Jay's got to bring his A game this year. It's got to improve. It's got to get better. Hopefully he's got a plan for this new down 35-yard line thing that's going to come into play now, Brendan. But it was a little bit of a rough road last year for him out there, yeah. Including going with D. Williams, which I think the nice thing about this year, to me at least on this, Brendan, was that part is that Torrey Horton, in addition to all the stuff we talked about with it, he is your number 1 punt returner. He's punt returner 1. That's going to be the way this goes. He's more comfortable. Yeah. He's more smoother with it than anybody else on the roster. And you don't have to hold an extra roster spot to put him in that position.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping would happen because of that. Exactly what you're saying. Steven Sims, I know he's probably a little bit better at it, but I didn't want to have to open up that roster spot for him. And doesn't seem like we'll have to. I know that Horton had a fumbled punt, I think, during the mock game, but most of the stuff I've heard about him has been pretty good.
Yeah. To my eyes on everything I saw him catch, I didn't see the fumble in the mock, but every other one he's smooth with it. He tracks the ball well. You can see how it's very easy for him to turn into a runner after the catch. Like he can give you a little bit of something with that too. It just seems, and I'll say I think he's better even than Sims on it from what I saw from Sims. Sims didn't feel like when he was watching it up in the air that he was moving with where the ball was going in the air in the same way Horton could be right where the ball is coming down. He's in that right spot. Whereas you get a little bit of Sims at the end trying to do a late action adjustment there to the left or right to try to get to the ball. Which is to me a little bit of an indicator sometime of punt returners being really comfortable in doing it. It's like second nature, or you're still kind of fighting yourself a little bit as the ball's coming in.
Yeah, and I for the most part, I think that's a great way to get him some action while he may be not getting on the field so much as a receiver. So it's great.
Yeah.
You think he'll do kick returns too?
No, because I think he's just so slight. If you have him starting to do that, that might be a little bit problematic. Charbonnet was doing a lot of it. Charbonnet might be your guy, rolling out back there, going with it. He looked a little leaner. He looked a little quicker this year to Charbonnet. But I think it's still kind of also a bit open-ended on where they might go with that. But I don't think Horton with the kick return myself. That's just a gut instinct. I don't have anything I feel like with kind of how thin he is, they'll go with somebody else a little bit there.
Yeah. I personally would have let Harbaugh go this offseason, but I don't think that I don't feel like it's DOA with him. I don't feel like he's just bad and there's nothing that can be done about it. Maybe it was just a bad year because he didn't have the right players. Who knows?
Well, I agree with you on that. I think as well, what you got to do with this is that if he comes back another year on this, I don't want to throw the Nepo thing around a little bit here too much, but like at that point, when he comes back a second year and he comes back and puts another performance up this year, like last year, Harbaugh, I think at that point you are going, well, this was kind of a Nepo hire to do Harbaugh a favor, to do the, Harbaugh, which is fine, but that's not what's best for this team now going in the future. Get a legitimate special teamer back in here, especially because you kicked Larry Izzo to the curb, who had the special teams unit humming when he left. So you broke something that was already working to bring in a kind of potentially a guy that's in over his skis. I think you got to realize that after 2 years and call the ball then. If not, should have done it this last year if it's really that bad. And this is where we'll learn a little bit about Mike's feel for this he corrected the Grubb situation when he realized it wasn't right. So he thinks this is still one that can get right, and we'll see. But it's one I'm going to be monitoring. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Harbaugh's not going to pay back that favor. Like, he's not doing nothing for you, I don't think.
No.
Joe Antonov, thank you for the $2. How has Job looked? He seemed to be getting cooked. I haven't heard that much about Job one way or the other. What was your impression?
Well, he does go off the field once you're going to kick Emawari into the slot and then Devin Witherspoon to the outside. So there are some reduction of snaps that he's pulling through on that a little bit. I will say there were some completions he gave up as well. But it's like, I'm sure you saw the JSN out route from Sam Darnold yesterday, the throw on that one, where they beat Job on that route. It's like, that's just a great run route by JSN and a really nice throw by Sam. I think he's had some back and forth moments. There have been some completions given up. I've seen him tighten coverage in other places too. But I will say as well, I'm not sure as much of that he's getting, as much run as you might think because of some of the commitment to running, Emawari's ascent and then bumping Witherspoon back out to the outside. I think it's kind of reduced his snap count down just a little bit.
I think the back end of this cornerback room is going to be a dogfight the rest of this preseason. Because I'm not sure Shaq is going to make it. Like, that might be a veteran signing you make just in case, but you're not actually planning on keeping him. Pritchett could definitely go one way or the other. You've got Demarion Williams, who everyone is saying Demarion Williams looks really good in camp. Like, there's some stuff back there that could be very surprising over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, he baited Drew Lock, I think, into a throw in the end zone down by the goal line for a pick six. I think it was on the first day that I was there. And then Demarion also had a near interception in the scrimmage game. I just couldn't quite, I think, get his feet down right on the sidelines as he made the pick. But he's been active, feisty, competitive out there. He's a guy that definitely I think is going to be in the mix. And to your point on Shaq, you're not been practicing. You've got the personal matters going, and I love these players that personal matters right as training camp comes up. Like I know stuff happens, but it's like, dude, this is the time of year you got to do. I always wonder what those personal things really are when you get down to it. But he's got to get out there and play. And he's not playing right now. And there are other guys out there getting it done, doing it. So I don't think there's any guarantee at this point Shaq does make that roster. I do think Demarion, though, is making as strong a case as any other corner on this roster who you didn't think would have a chance to make it, to making it, to knocking out even a guy like Pritchett, who he was all right on the days I saw. He got saved on one point where Cooper Kupp had him beat on a 9 route, and Cooper kind of like gave up mid route, and Darnold threw a perfect 9 ball to him to drop it in the bucket, and Cooper obviously just kind of deaccelerate a little bit, so the ball landed in front of him. But I could see it going that way with Demarion. He's fun.
Yeah. Personal reason, needed to finish the last season of The Boys before the new season starts.
Yeah, exactly. Got a little bit of Xbox to play, I don't know. It's like, this is your time of year. You guys get 2 months off the year to go do your thing. Now's the time to go.
Yeah. He was gone 11 days, apparently, Shaq.
Like what, maybe your kid, I know that happened with Niners last year. They had a couple of players lost kids in training camp. And so I get that. That could be something at play here a little bit, but yeah, we need our corner room reinforced here a little bit. We need to get comfortable with it, especially on the back end.
Right. Okay. So that's about it for camp. I think we're all caught up. Schneider signed the extension. That was like a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. I think it's okay. I don't know why you wouldn't wait a little bit, because he just had this huge offseason. I'd like to see how it actually works on the field first, but obviously if they're not planning on selling the team in the next couple of years, then there's not much of moving off of John Schneider. And I forgot he was in a contract year, or he was about to be in a contract year. So I guess it makes sense. Did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. My thought has always been a little bit on this, that it comes back to and I'm sure you've heard it from people in your chat that have spoken to you about this before this extension, being that, they feel like John needs to be on the hot seat. They feel like John needs to be, feet to the fire a little bit. This is a move that obviously shows that this is the opposite direction of that's not what's going on here from the Seahawks ownership's perspective of things. And I tend to understand it, because I tend to believe that, John, especially taking over for Pete and running unfettered, he number one, the major decisions over the last few years, the big things, you can rake him on some smaller stuff, but the big major things, the Russell Wilson trade, you won. You won not just barely, you won it handily, you lapped it. And when it comes to the Jamal Adams thing, what people have probably an issue with that, I think that Pete was a little bit of a driving force on that, especially knowing that he had a little bit of oversight of John in that perspective of things. Let's just talk about Brendan since Carroll kind of, moved on. So not moved on. I know the Russell Wilson thing happened before, but right on the Russell Wilson trade.
Well,
right.
Well, I mean, one thing to say, everybody involved in that process has said John wanted to trade Russ, Pete didn't. So there's only one person to give credit to there. Even if you don't like John, that part is really, really hard to argue against.
100%. Good point. And I think that he also then picked Geno and rode with Geno when almost nobody out there was thinking there was any potential for success with that. That's not a no-brainer decision at that moment. You're move on from this legend, you go to this. You're not going to make a priority of trading up in the draft to go get the quarterbacks, the landmine quarterbacks that he's avoided. I know we have our opinions about Milroe, but no going for Will Levis, no going for Malik Willis, no going for Desmond Ridder, not making a priority of Kenny Pickett. The fact that you avoided those landmines is also something that I think you got to give him some credit for, and not picking the wrong quarterback. And then the hiring of Mike McDonald, the decision to go get this head coach, which you be a naysayer as big a John as anything, but you got to acknowledge the fact that was a home run decision to go with Mike. And so the major decisions he's making, the healthiness of this roster for the foreseeable future as we move in the way it looks right now, where the cap situation's at. Again, it's not perfect with John, but I certainly think that there's enough there to facilitate this extension making a lot of sense, don't you?
Yeah, I get it. I definitely get it. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, because in my experience, John Schneider is pretty polarizing. When I make a topic, when I make a video, when I make any kind of discussion about John Schneider, people get violent. People get violent about it, one way or the other. I want him to be the GM. I even though I didn't like the offseason we just had, it's still the offseason that he had, and I think he deserves to see it through. So I want him to be the GM. What I would say is if this is a season where these things he did do not pan out, I could have my mind changed on that. But right now, I think that he deserves to be the GM, and I think he's done enough good. And like the Russell Wilson trade that you brought up, some of the things that he has done, some of the things that he's that were not, again, not easy. A lot of people I've noticed in my community have been trying to now retroactively say the Russell Wilson trade was a no-brainer. Everybody would have done that. That was the easiest trade ever. No, it wasn't. Not even close. That's clearly wrong.
If you think a player dictating a select amount of teams he wants to go to makes it then easy for that general manager to get the maximum trade capital back in return, you're kidding yourself. You're utterly kidding yourself. Look, what did the Griffey trade request do to us when he wanted to go to Cincinnati only? What were we able to get back for that? I mean, we were laughed at for the returns, and the returns worked out pretty decently, at least Mike Cameron kind, but you were laughed at that time. And why? Because when a player does that, it removes your options. When he says, I'll only go here, 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 you're kind of toasted out. And Russell wasn't going to go to anywhere because he had a no trade clause. So think about that. You know, you have a guy that's holding you over the barrel for select teams, yet you get maximum draft compensation back for him. That's not an easy job for any general manager in the league, and a lot of them would have failed to make that right.
And also, I'm talking about the fact that you trade him at all, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it was so obvious he was washed up. Of course, you trade him. It was the easiest." And it's like, no, absolutely not. Like that could have gone one way or the other easily. It went one way very firmly. That doesn't mean in the moment it was an easy decision.
There would have been multiple teams that would have traded for him at that time. To your point. On the whole, he's washed up and it's obvious. Well, if it's so obvious, then why would there be multiple teams out there willing to go get Wilson and pay him before he's even stepped on the football field? That doesn't add up.
Right. So I'm okay with it. I'm not enamored with it. There is a scenario where a few months from now, I'm sitting here annoyed that he's basically got infinite job security for the next 5 years, but we'll deal with that when it happens, I guess. Right now, I think he's done enough. I mean, like the Ryan Grubb hire, disaster, but at least you moved off of it quickly, right? You didn't hang on to him the way you did with Tom Cable, right? It's very different now.
I think it's also a little bit of like, is there an explanation for the mistake, right? Like Malik McDowell, you knew he was a character risk. You knew he was a problem. You knew you shouldn't probably pick that guy in the second round. NFL teams took him off the board after having interviews with him at the combine, and you still picked him. That's dumb on the surface of it. With Grubb, you wanted to get the head coaching job right, not the OC job right. You wanted to get the head coaching job, not the OC job. So that means you had to wait for Mike McDonald to get all the way through the playoffs before you could actually interview him to lock him in, which meant all of the good OCs that were available through that time that you could pick from were off the market by the time you had hired him. So it's to me, it's again, that's an explanation. That's not an excuse. Who was the OC that was available at that time that they should have gotten in retrospect?
Yeah, it was dry. It was pretty dry. It would have been like maybe you could have gotten Frank Smith from Miami. Maybe you could have convinced him because he doesn't have play calling like that. Off the top of my head, that's probably about the best I can do.
But hardly a one that's going to be a no doubt about it better than Grubb hire, right? Like that could have fallen just as much on its face as the Grubb thing at that point. Because we could come to find out that Mike McDaniel's the one that's really making that offense roll as much as anything else.
Yeah, so I would have been calling Frank Reich every hour that whole time. Admittedly, that's the one thing I can think of. But maybe he's not picking up. You know, maybe he's just
that's it. He's not coaching anywhere else, is he? So like that's the thing about it is Frank got fired and he's sitting on a contract. He's still being paid when he's fired. There's not a lot of motivation to necessarily go back out there and do that again. So I think that there just wasn't a guy available. We can't look at this through like a lens of a vacuum that there's absolutely a dude there that was sitting there you could have jumped instead. That's where you come back to like, yeah, the Grubb hire wasn't great. You swung for the fences on it. There wasn't a really good hire to be had there. And then when you realized it was wrong, you pivoted fast and you went away. You know, I think with our general managers, we want to see them correct mistakes. I think when it comes to the offensive line, for instance, Brendan, you and I will be definitely, I think, sensitive to that, and rightfully so, because this has been a long time mistake you have not fully corrected. But other things, he pivots pretty fast into finding a correction on it and moving when things aren't going in the right way on a situation. And I think that's one of the good parts about John.
Right. So I get it. And I'm good with it for now. I may not be so good with it in a few months, but we'll deal with that in a few months. Anyway,
Yeah. Understandable.
Why worry about the worst case scenario right now? This is the part of the year where you think about the best case scenario because the season hasn't started yet.
Dream big, baby.
Mm-hmm. Seth, thank you for the $1.99. What moves are you guys expecting with our cap? We do have quite a bit of cap space right now. I think it's like 32. If you factor in practice squad, probably about 29. So it is there is money to spend if you want to spend it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that you're sitting on this money right now as it stands, and you're just going to kind of hang where you're at, and you're going to call it a day here. I expect John to make some kind of move, whether it's now or before the trade deadline. I can't say this is necessarily something somebody cuts somebody and you go there, or you make a trade right before the season. I think John's going to have a little bit of a wait and see approach to this season potentially, which means maybe you have to wait on into the trade deadline to actually see them go after somebody at that point. But the two keys on this, Brendan, I know you and I have talked about it, are just that you have $67 million of dead money, and now you're sitting on more cap space right now than you ever have at this time of year during any of John's tenure here. Those two combinations of factors to me lend me logically in the direction of, from a rationale standpoint, saying, how does John have this year come out sitting on 67 million, not use that 30 million? And if the team isn't up to snuff, if the team isn't ready to rock and rolling, how does he come back to reporters and say, well, I just wanted to hold that 30 million to roll it over into next year while I was still trying to compete this year at the same time? Unless they want to just come out and say outright that we're not trying as hard to compete this year, which I don't think they're going to do. So I'm taking this logically. I don't know if you're buying on it, but I just sort of take it down that rationale approach of going 67, 34. I don't think that you're going to burn out $100 million of your salary cap and go, we're so good, we don't need $100 million of our salary cap and we can still kick ass.
Yeah. I think you're leaving it open for a reason. And I would hope you're at least having conversations and having discussions about maybe one of these big trades. Like, I think we're both on the same page when it comes to Clowney. Throw him $5 million, maybe after the second preseason game, so he doesn't have to do all of camp. He doesn't need it, but throw some money at Clowney, bring him in. I think we'd both love that. But that's a fraction of the cap that we have, and there could be something else in the pipes. As this season goes along, some teams are going to disappoint. Some teams are going to fall on their face. They might be looking to move a couple of really nice players. So let's keep that door open. I think there's a lot that can happen there.
Absolutely there is. And I'm not advocating for us to adjust contracts on top of if you had to, but remember with this too, with you have books, guys on the books right now that you can modify if you had to do a couple of different deals, throw a void here, put this out there. So you can kind of do whatever you want cap wise. Part of the benefit of being so good as you are right now, has some of the most cap space of anybody in the NFL, but also 26 and 27, being in such a good space for that too, as far as where your cap is into the future, that you can accommodate deals down the line for now to make it happen if you have to. Money is not a problem for this team in any way, shape, or form.
Right. All the way up to Micah Parsons. You can pay Micah Parsons $42 million a year.
Yeah. You can pay him $45 million a year.
Yeah. And for anybody who blinks at that, just know in 12 months, that will be a bargain every time, which why I, as a content creator, have really moved away from stressing about the little finer points of contract stuff. The cap goes up by 25 million every year. NFL just bought 10% of ESPN. That might boost it up even faster. Like, there's no such thing as a bad contract anymore unless the player is just bad, unless it's Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. There's really no such thing as a bad contract anymore. A poster child for this is Damian Lewis. That contract looked awful right after it was signed. Within 6 months, it was a dream bargain.
Yeah. No, I think you bring up a great point on this, and I echo your thoughts on this as well with this. I'm not worried about the cap. If I'm a Saints team, that's one thing. If I'm the Eagles team with all the voidable years buried down the line, that's one thing. But when I'm a team that has created a really organically healthy cap situation for this foreseeable future, even into 2027, where you do have only a top 10 amount of cap space, but that there are like 3 real key book deals on the books at that time: Darnold, Cooper Kupp, a Leonard Williams. There's one more I'm not thinking of off the top of my head that you could throw on top of that it can all be adjusted. DeMarcus Lawrence, then you can adjust the numbers at that point. Like, what they are on the books can bring that down even more further in that 2027 time span. So you're absolutely right. You can make this deal work any which way you want to make it, partly because you've set the stage for your cap to be in such a great place as we move into the future. And partly because, like you say, the cap's just always going to go up.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that I'm really starting to learn after doing this for many, many years. The cap, it goes up so fast. These contracts barely matter. Unless it's Deshaun Watson, it's fine.
Yeah. Or you're like the Niners and you're at the end of a Super Bowl window and you've paid 7 guys the top of their position and now they're getting older, and there are little, but they're more fewer and frequently far between, more than they're the guiding light general rule of thumb that you're just always this close to being in cap hell.
Right. So I obviously the Micah Parsons thing has gotten a lot spicy over the last week. I'm sure you followed it. It's been pretty funny. I still think it's more likely than not he doesn't get traded, but the odds are going up. The odds, maybe they're approaching 40% now.
I think the longer it lasts, it feels like they go up, but you do, like you say, counterbalance that to the Dak and the CD negotiations went just like this, or even Zach Martin negotiations went just like this. Everything's down to the 25th hour, and Jerry's got this weird thing that he feels like, there's no bad PR. As long as you're getting press, it's all good press. I don't know that I agree with Jerry on this. This just makes your organization look that much more like a circus. I don't think it endears the players to what you're trying to do there. I think that it's something that definitely could end up upending this season. And that, when you talk about players being injured, Jerry, you ain't paying a guy and he's held out of training camp, and then you pay him at the end of training camp, and then he gets injured mid-year. Does some of that come back to you saying, man, we should have paid him at the first training camp, gotten him in here so he was physically prepared to be able to go play on the football field? It's the part of that he just doesn't seem to get. And I don't know what he's doing, Brendan, when he's talking. Don't you feel like he's just almost at times seeming like he's trying to sabotage the situation? And why doesn't somebody just come in and say, just shut the hell up on this one? I have no comment on this. We're in active negotiations. Done. That's it. You don't need to, when mommy and daddy are fighting and you go to daddy and you say, daddy, I want it. And he says, yeah. And mama says, no. And you go back to mama and daddy said, yeah, we're trying to avoid it. And like, wait, shut up, Jerry. Just shut up.
Yeah.
You're not doing any good.
It's indefensible. I don't know how you could defend that. What he's doing right now, pushing it to the point where he actually writes a novel on his X account about how he doesn't want to be there anymore. Like, even if you end up signing him anyway, it's still pretty indefensible. And I think it was Mike Greenberg who was doing his show the other day, talking about Dak, talking about CD, talking about how much more money they had to pay those guys because they waited. Like, it was something like, before they signed Dak, no quarterback was making more than $50 million a year, or no, it was like, okay, they could have re-signed Dak at a point where only one quarterback was making more than $50 million a year. They waited until after 6 quarterbacks were getting $50 million or more a year, and then they gave Dak 60. So if they had just paid him top of the market, then it would have been like 52. They waited until it was 60. CeeDee Lamb, same thing. They could have paid him when the top of the market was 31. They waited until it was 35.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 11 million a year you probably just set on fire.
On top of the fact that you tend to wait until year 4 to try to get this done. You did wait until year 4 with Dak. You're waiting till year 4 with Micah Parsons. You could have paid him, to your point, back after year 3. And you chose not to. And now you're trying to hardline negotiations when you already spent the extra year waiting to pay them. And how do you sell that on the player? And then again, like you said on the part that I don't get about this, that just boggles my mind, you're not ending up getting a discount on these deals. In fact, you're ending up overpaying on these deals on the other end of it with this wait game. And then what PR bump did you really get off of that? How many more people are watching Cowboy games because of that in the past couple of years? I feel like it'd be 0.00001% increase at best. And then what is this all really for then?
Right. I think he just wants attention. I think it's that simple. And that's not an explanation, by the way. That's not a good explanation.
You might be right. I hope I don't, at 90 years old, just, scrubbing around for attention that way. It's kind of a sad look. And I hope he blows him out. I'm glad to hear Micah wrote that note, because I thought Jerry was really out of pocket. This kid has been a monster for you. He's earned this cap. This isn't some like, he's been a little bit better than average. Let's not overstate it now. No, he's been a difference maker from day one of arriving on your football team. He is the poster child for what the CBA negotiations put for being able to negotiate a new contract after year 3 if you outperform your deal. He's done it. Reward the man or trade him. Crap or get off the pot. One of the two.
Yeah, yeah. I get comments from a lot of people saying, "Oh, Micah Parsons is a head case. Look at all the drama he's creating. He's not doing anything wrong." Like I do the same thing too. Like
Again,
I'm not. I'm
you're right. To your point, fourth year, guys. So 3 years, he could have gotten paid last year at the start of training camp. Was the goods, earned it, had every right to hold out at that point in time or hold in and say, "To hell with you. I want to be paid now. I've earned this. Pay me." He played a whole fourth year, Brendan. He played through his whole fourth year, the good soldier on that. And then he comes back around and he goes, "Okay, he missed only 4 games. He missed 6 games." You're like lying about how many games the guy missed.
Yeah.
And you go, he last year had earned it. This ain't a head case. This is a organization that does this stuff with players on the regular, and you can't hold the players accountable for that. This is a bad ownership and a bad organization and how they run these particular items.
You think he started the podcast as kind of rebellion against the way he was being treated, as to say, like, I'm not going to be fully invested if you're not going to pay me?
I think it's more of a little bit. I think it's honest interest in doing it, to be honest with you. I think a lot of these players start to are liking the thought of doing this stuff more and more. And you're seeing them branch out, guys all over the place and trying to, see what they can do in this hemisphere of things. So I think he's kind of understanding this. I think players are more considering this ever before. It's almost the thing, Brendan, I think about where it's like they say, sports stars all want to be like actors or whatever, and actors always want to be sports stars. It's kind of like, that type of thing. It's like, I'm a professional athlete, but I want to be a podcaster. Podcasters want to be athletes.
I've listened to his podcast. He's not very good at it, is the thing. That's why I ask. I don't think that was his calling in life.
He may not find it is, but I think it's definitely, I don't think he's doing it to mess up the negotiations or anything like that. I think it is something I think he honestly wants to do. Whether he's good at it or not, we'll see on that.
Yeah. I'd rather listen to Talk Tua personally.
It's a low bar.
Yeah. Feed me more. Thank you for the $2. Like John letting Mike pick Tyrese Knight in the draft. Yeah, that is what they say. They say that Mike spearheaded Tyrese Knight, and that was a pick a lot of people hated. And look where we are right now, way ahead of where even optimistic people thought.
Yeah, it's part of good parts of John's game that I think not every general manager has. I think there's a lot of general managers who will say, "I'm going to pick who you're going to like, and you better play him." And that John has a lot more. And I think this is the benefit of working with Carroll for so many years. Having a guy that had more power than you as a general manager forces you to have that copacetic relationship with the coach where you guys are really on the same page and where you really are picking guys that are fitting really to where he wants and what he wants. And it's in perfect alignment, not kind of quasi alignment, but perfect alignment all the way around. And I think John shows that with that Tyrese Knight pick. I'm sure Mike was very active in the picks, like Nick Emawari. I can only imagine McDonald was in his ear throughout all of the scouting process on that one. Like, give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that one, give me that one. Come on, John. You know what I can do with that? Oh, you know what I can do with that, John. Come on. Oh.
They were trying to trade up into the first round to get Emawari, and they couldn't quite pull it off. So they liked it.
Hot to trot on that guy, and understandably why Mike would. It's the exact kind of player that he loves in his defense with all of that versatility. But it's another part that I give John a little feather in his cap for, and his ability to do something a lot of general managers, I think, struggle with. I think they could be great evaluators and great at identifying where to draft a guy, great at managing the money. But then you come back around to like dealing with the coach and having that, like Trent Baalke type guys. I think there's a lot of guys that come to the failure point on that side of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. David, thank you for the $4.99. When was the last time you belly laughed, Brendan? Like tears in your eyes, I only see you chuckle sometimes. I don't know if this is talking to me or you, because this is not how I spell my name, and I don't think it's how you spell your name.
No. Well, I belly laughed last night. I caught the old clip of Joe Theismann talking about Danny Woodhead, and it's a NFL Network clip, and Deion Sanders is there, and a bunch of other guys are there. And he says, instead of saying Danny Woodhead, he calls him Danny Woodcock. And the whole panel just falls over laughing. Like Deion kid, like all of them, like just double. It's so funny. And Theismann takes a second where he's kind of done that. What? And then he realizes it, and then he's doubling over. I was losing it last night watching that clip. It was so funny.
I remember that one. Yeah. I'm not the most demonstrative person when it comes to like external shows of emotion. I think a lot of people have figured that out by now. The closest I get, probably some of the stuff that happens on Twitch, because I usually have my friend there on the call with me We talk about stuff, and sometimes there's a lot of fun had with those conversations. Stuff like that can happen, but I'm not the most externally expressive person, I guess, is the right way to put it.
Just not wired that way.
Mm-hmm. So I'll admit it doesn't happen often. I mean, this is reaching way back. I remember Christmas Day 2013 going, because back then me and my parents would, and my brother kind of made it a tradition. We'd go see a movie at the theater every Christmas morning. That year was The Wolf of Wall Street. And when Jonah Hill is talking about what he would have done if his children were mentally deficient, you remember that scene in the bar?
Yeah.
Like, my mom sitting right next to me, I thought she was going to die. And, I that got me, right? Because I'm watching my mom. I literally think she's about to hack her lung out from laughing so hard. And that kind of gets me too, right?
Oh yeah. If I got my parents laughing, it makes me crack up for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's reaching way back, but I did the best that I could, David. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Hawks Coots. Oh, it's a different username, but it's this. It adds that.
No, he just adjusted the thing to make it easier to read, so you can kind of.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hawks Coots. Thank you for the 279 Canadian. Do you guys want Clowney? I feel like Clowney's the slam dunk to end all slam dunks.
Yeah, Hawks Coots. This is one that just makes so much sense. It's just kind of. I almost feel like there's potentially even just a deal in place where they're like, look, we won't make you get in training camp. Just come in 11th hour. We'll get you in here. We'll suit you up. We'll get you ready to roll. We know you'll be good to go. Clowney is a guy that had his best year of his career in McDonald's defense. He was the best version of being a game wrecker. He is a monster against the run. You could have him and Lawrence down there at early downs as edges, and we have the purified form of what Mike McDonald wants in this defense as a beginning point. 2 power edges that are pure on that side, and now the rest of the defense can work off of that. You can set hard edges. You can reroute ball carriers without any kind of problem. He would give you that. And oh, by the way, he'd give you that for about what Brendan probably said, about a $4 or $5 million 1-year deal, not multi-year extension, 1-year prove it deal. Be the gun for hire guy. There's just really no downside to bringing him in on this. The cost is right. He's a purified fit for this scheme. That's why he had the best year of his career in Mike McDonald's defense, is because this scheme takes advantage of what he does best, which is simply start off the line of scrimmage wide and then just attack the backfield and use your explosive power to do so and wreck the play. You don't have to make the play. You don't have to make the sack. I want you to wreck the play. And that's what Clowney does.
And once Nwosu gets back, he might only have to play like 12 to 15 snaps a game. Like it's going to be easy for him. He's never going to get tired.
Yep. He could have a nice, just kind of almost a year off, a little bit to your point on that, where he just comes out where he's needed and he can just be part of a winning football club, maybe have the best chance to outside that Baltimore team and going to being a contender and going win in a bowl as his career is starting to wind down. I feel like there's just no downside on this deal. Bear with me for a second. 1 sec, Brendan.
Right back. Not a problem. Sure. He'll be right back. A little early for pizza, isn't it? I don't know. A little early for pizza for me. I almost never have pizza for lunch.
Oh, thank you for bearing me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, people in chat thought you were getting a pizza. Is that true?
No, I drank too much coffee today.
Ah, all right. Okay, so feed me more. Thank you for the $2. Don't forget paying other players before Parsons. Well, the thing is, because the cap goes up by so much every year, you can pay almost everybody. Maybe there will be 1 or 2 players you can't afford to keep, but Yeah, I'm not too worried about this part of it, especially because we don't have a $60 million a year quarterback.
Yeah, I think let's face it as well. There's really three major contracts we're looking at for the future coming up, and we don't really know outside of that for sure on the others. I think you're going to get the Charles Cross deal done. You're going to get a Devin Witherspoon deal done. And there was one other guy I'm thinking of. JSN's going to get done. Those are the three that you know for sure. Everybody else, there's a question there. We've got 7 guys that we've got to get on extensions here, number one. And number two, again, back to Brendan's point on this, Feed Me, is that you're sitting on so much cap space right now. You can do a variety of things. This isn't, you have $35 million. You sign Parsons to a $45 million deal. And now you no longer have any of that. That eats all that $30 million up. And now you can't give it to anybody else. It doesn't work that way. The first year cap hit for Parsons is going to be maybe 14 million, 15 million. You're going to put down his base minimum. And then it's going to be just the bonus money on the books for that first given year that counts. And so there's going to be plenty of space there to get those other contract extensions done. It doesn't have to be a one or the other. And also considering with this, as it comes down to with the George Karlaftis deal that was given out a couple of weeks ago, that's going to be the floor for Boye Mafe moving after this year. So, what do you want to have? Boye Mafe at $23 million per year, or Parsons at $43 million per year? Is it worth the $20 million extra for that other guy and what he gives you versus the other guy? And from my standpoint, especially understanding Dirty's familiarity, understanding how much of a pure fit he'd be into this defense and how McDonald could use Parsons all over the place. And that we come back to like Emawari, having a guy who can do a lot of things is really beneficial to this defense from Mike McDonald's perspective. So having a guy in Parsons who's actually played off-ball linebacker, for instance, kind of cool. Kind of a lot of ways you can kind of use that guy. Dirty's background with him. So I'd go that other way with it myself. I'm still expecting, like you are on this, though, that Jerry ends up just paying all of the money at the end of the day.
Yeah, the issue, if the Seahawks have an issue right now, it's a lack of superstars. They have good players, they have great players, they have stars, they have guys that might be about to become superstars, but they don't. Maybe Big Cat, right? Big Cat and Michael Dixon, those are their superstars.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you're going to need to get some, if you want to get to being a contending team, to your point, don't you agree that you're going to have some difference makers? You're going to need guys that aren't just merely above average good, but are actually those kind of guys. So this is part of, to me, also a look to what's the way we take this next step to contending status? Does it just organically grow from the soil, the guys we have in house, or is it going to require a little bit more, interceding?
Yeah, you can force the issue a little bit. And we haven't really had superstar players for, it feels like a little while now. Like it feels like most of these guys we get, they cap out at a certain point. Frank Clark was never a superstar.
Nope.
Tyler Lockett was never a superstar. DK Metcalf, he had the one season where he made all pro, but I don't feel like he was ever a superstar, even at his peak.
Agreed.
Dwayne Brown, when he was here, even reaching way back there, he was a star, I'd say, but he wasn't a superstar.
Yeah. Solid, but not in that Trent Williams area and how he was looked at as far as that guy, or Lane Johnson.
Yeah. I'd say, in the post Russell Wilson era, we've had a lot of good players, some great players, even a few stars, other than Big Cat. And look how you got Big Cat. You traded for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it works sometimes.
It's the way it goes. You'd ideally like to draft all these guys, but if you do have guys, for instance, you drafted a couple edges in the second round the past couple of years who have been good, but they haven't gotten to great status, and you got a chance to go to great status, and you don't feel like they're going to reach into that great status, but more stay in the good range of things. I can see how that could drive this kind of deal to be made to happen as well.
Yeah, force the issue a little bit. It's fine. Again, the picks, look, losing the first round picks is going to hurt, especially for me. I spent all offseason talking about the draft. If we don't have first round picks the next 2 years, I have a lot less to talk about. But I'd probably rather have Micah Parsons than the number 26 pick and the number 28 pick in the next 2 drafts.
Yeah, because if you get Parsons, you're probably winning 10, 11, 12 games over the next 2 years. Like that, he's going to have an effect on this team you're already bringing in. And I think part of what makes this easier for me too, Brendan, is the fact the team has, whether you're in on Milroe or not, the team has signed up for a 2-year process at the quarterback position all the way around, from starter to backup to the developmental guy. So you don't really have to feel like we got to have those picks for the quarterback that we have to go trade up for next year, because you've got your guys in house. This may be the strongest quarterback room we've had in our history from start to finish. And so that also can maybe give you a little bit more confidence to make this kind of move.
Right. And sorry if my microphone's going up and down. StreamYard takes over my microphone when I'm in here and keeps like adjusting it down. So I don't know if that's
okay.
Yeah, sorry if it's having problems. I don't know why StreamYard thinks it can just like take over my microphone settings whenever I turn it on.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's like I got gremlins in my computer or something messing around with my settings. All right. Feed me more. Thank you for the $2. Thinking emoji. I think this is the thinking emoji. We come to find Sam is a better leader than Gino. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see when the season starts. It's really hard to tell right now.
It's hard to tell right now, but I will say, Brendan, that I think a little bit of part of the reasoning of Gino being somewhat, I know he wanted to go play for Carroll. There's a lot of back and forth we can have on this, but I think a part of the reason that this front office was very okay to a degree of letting Gino go had to do with the fact that I think that there was a little bit more there from a leadership angle that they wanted to see from the quarterback position. The Buffalo Bill game last year, when he walks off and you're in a tight game and he throws the ball at the player and causes a penalty on that, that's quarterback's going to have it happen. Screaming at people in Lumen, your own fans, screaming and yelling at them. Some of the body language, some of the lack of communication on the sideline I saw from Gino, where he just walked over the sideline last year every time, sat on the bench, and he's not talking to anybody. And I don't think that that's what you're going to see from Sam this year. I think you're going to see a guy connect to the process, connecting with guys on the sideline, discussing this type of stuff. The players have mentioned over and over what a leader he's been. This resonated with Minnesota last year, where you had him lifted in a locker room on shoulders of the players at one point after a big win, which doesn't happen unless you have a quarterback that absolutely has those players believing in him. And so I think he is going to prove to probably be better as a leader here than we've had kind of at the quarterback position in a little bit of time.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not a big fan of this kind of stuff. I know that Gino acted out a few times last year. I think it was because he was stuck in some Sisyphusian nightmare of taking less money and still having no support on the offensive line. I can only get so mad at him for acting out a little bit here and there. So I was never big into that stuff, but we'll see what Sam does.
See, and I can't have my quarterbacks act out. I can have a receiver get diva. I can have a defensive player go into his get over emotional on a sideline, start screaming. I can't have my quarterback be that. And I think that that's a representation of a little bit of mental toughness stuff there, isn't it? And so, I don't think, for instance, if you had Sam go through the thing that Gino went through last year, that you would see him do the same kind of stuff. I don't think you see Sam slinging a ball at a defender mid-game in a tight game where you got to get everything you can offensively because he feels like he was hit a little bit too late out of bounds. And Gino just had a little bit of that vibe with him. I think he was a better leader walking in year one than he ended up in year three. And I think that was a factor in the negotiations to move on from him. And I think with Sam, what you're hearing about him already, Brendan, with taking these players aside, with the 2 days out in camp in California this offseason, but taking the players aside off the field and hanging out with them, being a part of that. I'd reckon to guess that's another thing you probably didn't hear a lot of Gino doing last year too. So these are the things that are small, subtle things to me that lend and build towards that leadership. You don't just be a leader by being active and vocal on the field in that point. It's also what you're doing off the field.
Yeah, I will say hopefully it translates into play as well, because if we have Sam Darnold sucking it up next year, but he's a good leader, I'm going to burn this place down. I will throw a fit on camera right here, right now, if that's the thing I'm supposed to get excited about. We got a bad quarterback who's a good leader. I'm going to be pretty upset.
I don't see any possibility of him sucking. I really don't, man. I just, if he's going to suck, you're going to feel that from him on the practice field right now. He's going to be in over his head, especially right now coming onto a new offense with a new coordinator. This is where he would look theoretically a little bit at his worst throughout this year. And he is going to do the job. Is he going to carry the day? Is he going to put the team on his shoulders? I don't think you're going to ask him to do that. I don't know if he can do that. But I know that he's going to be a competent quarterback and he's not falling on his face. We can't look at this like the Sam Darnold New York Jets days is what we're going to drive from with it. It's not what you're getting here. I say it with as much confidence of any take I could have walking off of my 3 days of training camp experience. The way he carries himself, how he's operating, how comfortable he feels, how calm he is back there and what he's doing. This guy is ready for this chance. It's not just a flippant thing I'm trying to say with this. It's really one where I think he's ready to go on this and be a real good, competent player for us.
Yeah, I can't imagine him being terrible. I agree with that. I think there's a wide range of possibilities beyond that, though. I maintain that. I'm going to be open-minded, but that means going both ways. I do think there is some possibility here that I definitely don't think he'll be as good as he was with Minnesota. Minnesota, he got MVP votes. I don't think there's any way that's happening. So I think you slice off a little bit at the top, you slice off a little bit in the bottom, and there's a big range of possibilities in the middle.
There is, and some it depends on how much you're going to ask of him. First, how much you're able to run and maybe stay up on games, and you can put him in a position of being ahead a lot of times. I mean, it depends on how the games kind of play, out a little bit with that. But I think too that you don't put up the kind of year he put up last year, Brendan, by just lucking into that. You don't just put up that kind of year because you get a good coach here and you have a receiver here. And again, understanding that when you look at some of the advanced statistics off last year, like the pressure numbers, like the sack numbers, pretty close to Geno. So you can't even go, well, he just had this super clean pocket 24/7 with this grade A play calling at every single turn. And that was driving the driving force for him. That was helping him. I'm not trying to dissuade that wasn't a part of the process, but it can't be the whole part of the process that brought him to be last year. It was also Sam coming forward as a player and busting his ass to get where he's gotten. And if, JJ McCarthy goes out there and puts up Sam Darnold's year this year with the Minnesota Vikings, that's one of the best all-time rookie seasons for a quarterback ever. I think these are representations of the fact that there is a bit of a turning of the corner here with Sam and where he's at in his career right now, which matches up a lot to what we saw from Geno, Brendan. It's the same thing that we had with Geno, where everybody was sure with Geno that he was already sunk. They were carrying and holding on to the specter of what he was with the Jets and the betting and getting punched and all that stuff. And so like guys can develop, you give them that time. It takes a long time in this sport for these quarterbacks. We want them to sink or swim right from the jump, but sometimes you give them that time, they actually can, give them, they develop into the best version of themselves, especially if they're a hard worker. And by all accounts with Sam, everybody to a man, including even Jesse Palmer, has talked about how hard a worker this guy is.
We're going to find out very soon here. We're going to find out very soon. I'm definitely interested. Let's see here. Oh, we got one more. Seth, thank you for the $1.99 trade. Do you want a difference maker at edge or right guard?
I don't think you get a difference maker at right guard in a trade. There's just not a guy that the team's going to give up on that in that realm of things. They're few and far between. I can get a difference maker at edge. So this is where the theory versus actuality. And for me right now, it's just an actuality set. There's not an offensive lineman to go get.
I almost feel like difference maker at right guard's almost an oxymoron. Like how many difference makers at right guard are there? Like 2?
That's a good point. Very good point. And I would agree with you on it. Yeah. I don't there's not a lot of them walking the earth right now. So it'd be great if you could get one, but you have to have the availability to find one too.
Yeah. So generally speaking, it's really hard to trade for good offensive linemen because there's a scarcity problem.
I would still say, wouldn't you still say though, you'd still go edge maker, but for the positional value aspect of this? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I find myself in that camp on this one. So
yeah. Like we traded for Dwayne Brown, but that was an extreme circumstance where Houston was terrible. Dwayne Brown wanted more money. Like that's not gonna crop up very often.
No, and his age being at 32 at that time, and Houston not wanting for where his age was at, they would have, if he was 26, they would have paid him. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, so that's about everything I think we can talk about other than this game. So let's talk about this game a little bit. Raiders coming into town. Pete, Geno. It's we got some interesting stuff. Pete isn't giving anything away on whether or not this guy's going to play or that guy's going to play. McDonald's an open book, though. Don't expect very many starters. What are you looking for tomorrow night against the Raiders?
The eyes are going to be really upon the rookies as much as anything else because they're going to get a lot of run. And got like Arroyo. I'm sure they're going to have some packages set up for him to feature him a little bit and get his feet wet. So he's going to be out looking at your Damian Martinez as a running back and how he runs. Do you feel his physicality? Do you feel that power that you felt from Miami translate in?
Whoa. Okay, the connection just broke up real bad. The audio's all messed up.
Mic check. I'm all good. You sound all right to me.
Okay, for me, it just sounded like I was talking to the T1000 all of a sudden.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know if anybody else experienced that or not, but I think we're good now. Okay, let's go.
Oh, yeah, Brando went Android for a second. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not sure what happened. What was I just saying?
You were talking about the rookies.
Yeah. So as much as just kind of concentrating on those guys and seeing how that they play and how comfortable they are, and if that Horton continues to look as much a difference maker when he's out there, he's going to get a ton of run in this game. I'm sure MOR is going to get a good amount of run. So it'll be more mainly rookies as far as the individual players I'm kind of really looking at, and then offensively, watching how Kubiak sequences things and sets stuff up over the course of the game. Seeing if we're going to find some more consistency in the run game. There were some times in practices in the run game for me at times, Brendan, where it was a little bit of boom or bust, where the hope is on this run game that you're getting more of the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You're constantly chipping away at the 10 yards to go get the first down, as opposed to always on the edge of busting off a 25-yarder. So it's like 0 yards, 0 yards, 0 yards, 25 yards, 2 yards, -1 yard, 36 yards, So can you consistently get those run plays going out there, and that the people are on the P's and Q's as far as their blocking assignments? Because there's so much of the detail driven nature of this offensive line now, and being in having your hands in the right spot, your feet being in the right spot. So I'll be really concentrating and looking at that. I think Mike Macdonald I'm also going to see if Mike Macdonald continues the trend I saw from training camp, Brendan, of more of the stack boxes, more of the pressure looks, more of the confusion he's trying to draw pre-snap there at the line of scrimmage, which was not as much. He did a good amount last year, but it was something I thought last year versus where he was with Baltimore, he had pulled back a little bit, probably in the name of making sure these players understood all the details of the foundation of the playbook before you got to all the advanced stuff. So I'm going to look to see if you see a little bit more of that flavor as well, mixed on in. How about yourself?
I think that the most interesting thing to watch is Horton. I think you mentioned him very early, and I think you're right to do that, because this guy could be a big, big surprise. This guy could have a rookie season like Lockett did when he had his rookie year many, many years ago in Seattle, and that would be a big shot in the arm that very few people would have seen coming. So I want to see how he handles the punts and kicks. If he does indeed handle punts and kicks, I want to see if he looks comfortable doing it, and if he does, that's one less thing I got to worry about. I think that's probably the most fun thing to watch tomorrow. I think maybe the most important thing for me might be Anthony Bradford, though. I want to know if he's winning this right guard job because he looks good, or if because everyone else looks so bad that they just have to give it to Bradford. I want to know what's going on there. That to me is the most powerful thing right now.
Yeah, probably more the latter than the former on that one with Bradford. It looked a little bit better this year. There's still going to be those brutal snaps where it's gets out over his skis and just completely gets a whiff on you. But he does seem to be the guy that's going to win that job. But yeah, I'll be looking for that too.
Yeah. Do you think Lomia has any shot here? Did you see anything from Lomia to report?
I mean, he's the next guy in there. Him and Sundell are the guys that they were rocking over there right guard behind Bradford. He looked okay out there. The thing with Sumaya to watch for, and definitely in this preseason game to see, he can run block. Can the pass protection come up? Is he going to be a 35 graded pass pro guy again this year? Because you can't get on the field if you're that. That's not just like, well, you're kind of a issue for us in pass protection. You are an open hole in pass protection right now. So I have to watch for that. But nobody was really taking the job on the interior and the right guard. Nobody was out there just making it happen there. Zabel looked very competent, capable at left guard. He looked smooth and ready to go. And even Olutimi looked pretty good at center, I'll say. I thought he looks a little bit bigger and he's been solid. But right guard still remains kind of what it is.
And you can survive that. You can have one squeaky wheel on the offensive line, I think. But the problem becomes when they're not getting supported properly by the guys around them. And maybe we got a chance to build something like that this year. I was hoping that Oluwatimi could be the squeaky wheel, though. I was hoping right guard would be a little bit better.
To your point, 05 offensive line. Who's your weakest link on that 05 line, Brendan? I know I'm going maybe deep for you as a youngster on this one, but
you had Chris Gray at right guard. That was probably the guy that you weren't crazy about.
And what position did he play?
He played right guard.
And if I go to 2013 and I ask you on 2013, what's probably the weak link on that offensive line?
Oh boy. J.R. Sweezy was there at right guard. Maybe him. Yeah, it depends on who you ask, right? Depends on who you ask. Because Giacomini was still starting then, right?
He was. I think you could go between those two guys, to your point, because you weren't going to say it about Unger. You weren't going to say it about Carpenter. You weren't going to say it about Okung. So again, we come back to two of the best teams you've had in your NFL history here from a Seahawks standpoint, had their weakest link on their offensive line at the right guard. And we're now setting the stage for this upcoming season to see that right guard. This is all back to your point on, can you mitigate it? Can you get around it? Is it something that now can be a death knell for your offensive line? No, because with right guard, of course, that's the one guy on your offensive line. That's the one guy who easily can consistently get help by the nature of the way your scheme is set up from that center. He's the guy getting that help time and time again. So, I feel like you can kind of get around that, even though it's not ideal.
Yeah, when I lived up in Kirkland, my landlord at one point was working as an alarm salesman, and he sold an alarm system to James Carpenter. Actually, I just remembered that.
Oh, nice.
Got to meet him and everything. Said he was not very intelligent. Like, kind of tough to string words together for him.
Oh goodness. Well, hey, it's luckily football found him then, huh?
Yeah. So I think right guard's the right position to have a weakness at. Right guard, I think it's the least important position on the offensive line. I think you can survive a weaker player there easier than any other spot.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree.
Peter Go Hawks, thank you for the $4.99. Do you think 2 first-round picks are selling the farm, and how hard would it be for Parsons to get acclimated to our scheme?
Well, I think first off, I don't think 2 first-round picks are selling the farm. I'm not even convinced necessarily that the 2 first-round picks are absolutely positively where it goes, but it could. I'm okay with doing it, though. Brendan mentioned earlier on this, Peter, that I think you've set a team up right now that's going to have a pretty high floor over the next 2 years. You've had 3 straight winning seasons with a young football team, with a younger football team than the one you're bringing out there this year, more inexperienced football team than the one you're bringing out there this year. So I think that when you're looking at these 2 first-round picks, that you're looking at them being mid to later on first-round picks. So you're not giving up blue chip players essentially to flip those 2 first-round picks. I think the price is not too much at that point, especially considering a guy like Parsons just isn't out on the market. Look at Myles Garrett. Every indication from the Cleveland Browns this offseason, with him requesting the trade like he did, and where the Cleveland Browns find themselves organizationally, should have been that the Cleveland Browns move him, get some picks, and let's keep this thing moving. Get this thing finally turned over. Get out from under the Deshaun Watson contract. Now is not the right time. Did Cleveland do that? No. They signed the biggest contract extension in the history for edges. TJ Watt with the Steelers. He's been dinged up. He's getting increasingly more hurt. He is into his 30s. Did they have any hesitancy about giving him that money? No, they did not. Because these teams understand the impact of a guy like this and what he does for a defense. And so they just don't become available. If they are available, you definitely are going to try to make a run at them if you can, because they're so hard to find.
Yeah, I agree. I think in general, generally speaking, teams are very reticent to move off of good players, even when everything should be pushing them towards getting rid of the good player.
Yeah.
And over and over and over again, like, we've been doing this show. This is now year 5. And it feels like every year since we moved off of Russell Wilson, we've been talking about, hey, maybe this team's going to move off of this quarterback because of this reason and that reason and that reason and that reason. And we can be there to catch them when they do. Maybe the Chargers are going to move Justin Herbert. Maybe now we're talking about, hey, maybe the Texans move CJ Stroud. Maybe the Bengals move Joe Burrow. Maybe the Cowboys move Dak Prescott. Over and over and over again, they never do. They never do, even when they should. In some of these cases, they clearly should, and they never do. And I think you're seeing the same thing like with the pass rushers, or really any good player, because it's so easy as a team to talk yourself into, we are one player away. We are one player away. We need to do this one thing and we're good. Every team in the league talks to themselves like that, I think, because there are 7 playoff spots, because there are 17 games. So I think you have to I think you have to look at things through that lens and then understand, if I can get Micah Parsons, this is such a rare and precious opportunity. I have to chase it. Even if it's going to hurt a little bit, I have to think about this.
Yeah. And the fit to the scheme is you can't get a better fit to the scheme. The wide 9, the wide 10 looks, giving Micah that extra space off the edge, which you can do with him in the system. He's going to fit to that purely, Peter. You were a 22nd rate team at blitzing last year, so you trust your front 4 to get to the quarterback, i.e., much like the Carroll days. It might be you don't know which 4 are coming, but the 4 that do come against those 5 offensive linemen and sometimes a running back have to be able to win on their own, and they have to consistently win at that. So you need the dogs up front that can just whoop that guy's butt. You're not going to just schematically stack boxes and create the free opening pass rushers time and time again through that methodology of it. So he would be a fit in that way too. Not to mention Peter, he was an off-ball linebacker at Penn State. So Mike could literally have moments where he's got a guy off the edge here. He's got Mike as a middle linebacker. He walks Mike up in the A gap as a stand-up sort of spinner role, or then post-snap, drop him on into the flat, bring Amawari from another edge over here, drop Devin Witherspoon from an outside cornerback to a deep safety position post-snap, which they did last year at times here and there. You can do anything. You can go crazy with it. And that's what Mike McDonald wants to do with this scheme. We set everybody up pre-snap here. Post-snap, we do that. And you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the scheme at all. I think it would take him like 2 minutes to acclimate to the scheme. I'm not worried about that in the slightest. He's that good.
Remember too, Peter, Dirty's on this roster. So you have literally his former defensive line coach as your DC.
Right. That's true. And some people are making that connection, I think, with justification.
I agree. A lot of reasons why this makes a lot of sense for us to be. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but I could, if somebody told me, they would be the front runner to go and get this guy, it would make a lot of sense to me. You have the picks, you have the cap space, you have the team, you've got the familiarity. You've got maybe players you can kind of kick in that makes it just enough worthwhile for Dallas on the other side of it. There's a lot of this that does come in alignment to me.
Mm-hmm. I missed a super chat here. My bad. Hawks Coots, thank you for the $6.99 Canadian. Sam needs more credit for last year. Early JJ McCarthy reports aren't good. Well, I'm not surprised about the JJ McCarthy part. That was definitely one of those guys that we both did not get in that draft. So not going to be terribly surprised if he crashes and burns.
No, me and Brendan weren't the biggest on that Hawks. I think you bring up a good point, though. I think that when I initially looked at Sam last year and I hadn't gone as deep dived into him as far as looking at his season and what brought up that season, I was a little bit in the same kind of lazy standpoint of it, of where I go, well, it's Patrick O'Connell and it is having Addison and it is having Jefferson. And then you've got this defense with Flores, which is lighting it up too. And it's like, it's all working to make him at his best. But when you did look at what he was dealing with from a pressure-based aspect and understanding in the past history of Sam Darnold, that when he has gone wrong and he's gotten to deal with too much pressure, he has not dealt with it well. But last year he got too much pressure, and with the exception at the end, when the complete collapse happened of the Minnesota Viking offensive line, just at the same point in time you're going in the playoffs and playing one of the more lethal front fours in this sport with the Rams, he held up throughout the year against that storm. That was not an issue for him. It was stuff that he was able to overcome and still perform at a really, really high level, make high level throws. Nobody made more big time throws last year than Sam Darnold in this sport, bar none. And these are things to me that are representations of that turning the corner and finding some footing here, Hawks Coots.
Yeah, I think that he was legitimately good last year. I have some concerns. I have a lot of respect for Kevin O'Connell. I think he's great. I do. And I like Kubiak a lot too, but Kubiak's not quite at that level yet. He's got to prove it. He's got to have that one big year to get to that point. So I am hoping, but yeah, not surprised about the JJ McCarthy part of this at all.
No, I thought it was a little bit odd. Minnesota so much into, we just know this is going to work going to him, especially because now Sam Howell is the backup there. And I part of why I felt like, and one of my hot takes going into this year right now, is I think that the AFC North gets talked about like it's this next great division in football. I think it's being over talked about. I think they got to beat up on a little bit weaker schedule last year, that division at times. And I don't think they're going to get the same benefit this year. I think that whole division takes a little bit of a step back, and I'm not buying the Bears.
Yeah, it's who do you think wins that division right now?
Green Bay.
You think Green Bay? I'm starting to think that too.
Yeah.
Big LaFleur fan.
I think with the Lions, I think they had their best opportunity over the past couple of years. And I feel like you blew it a little bit. And I think with the Vikings, I think that they are a good team, and they went overlord this offseason with as far as free agency and just, Jonathan Allen, and we're going to rip this guy, we're bringing this guy back. So, I mean, like, they have loaded themselves to the hilt in a lot of ways, but JJ McCarthy and rookie quarterback now with a team that you're hoping is in go for it mode, and a rebuild offensive line. We'll see if that thing, holds together. Starting 5 games.
Addison's out now.
Addison's out for the 3 games with this, so it's more of a vibe thing for me, Brendan, more than it is to like pick apart the teams individually from a structure and say, well, this and that. It's just a feeling. But I just feel like that North had its run last year, and I don't think that they're going to necessarily replicate it this season.
I think it'll be better than the average division. I'll put it to you that way.
Sure. 100%. I mean, I see at least 2 teams making the playoffs for sure there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Bears are tough. The Bears are tough to figure out. Like, I got a funny feeling about Ben Johnson as a head coach. He might be that nerd guy that needs to stay coordinator. I'm getting that vibe.
I am too. And they were having a hard time with Caleb running all the stuff that they run within that offense. It was too fast for him initially. So they were literally at one point in camp running slow motion offense so that Caleb could process through what he needed to process through, which is not a good sign.
Yeah, I heard he had a really good day the other day, though. He had been stacking really, really bad days. And then one day he just goes out there and dominates. So I don't know what to make of that. But it's going to be interesting. They've got talent there. They definitely have talent.
They do. It's just, there's a lot of question there on that one for me.
Mm-hmm. Quinn, thank you for the $5. If Darnold turns out to be good, then it barely even matters if we spend 2 firsts, because we have the main thing we'd want to spend firsts on anyway. And I think that's a good point, man.
Yeah, it's a great point, Quinn. You returned all of your 11 starters on defense. 15 guys started for you on defense that were on this team this year, and you're only going to kind of build on that into next year, where your only free agent losses, really theoretically, in the way that this could go, is Woolen and Mafe. That's it, and Kobe Bryant. But Kobe Bryant, you've already got the replacement there in Emawari. So you worst case scenario, really, from the way this season plays out, and you kick ass and take names, and those guys ball out, and Mafe has a great year, and Woolen has a great year. You're just losing only those 2 guys, and that's only if you don't re-sign them. So To your point, you got a lot in place here. Zabel's locked in at left guard. Cross and Lucas probably locked in at the tackle positions. Your running back room still feels okay. You've got it. You definitely want to add to the receiving core in future years, but you're still going to have Cup, JSN, maybe Horton in on this. You've got Barner's your tight end with Arroyo, so you have 2 tight ends in the future going forward. So back around, it's a great point, Quinn, in that part of making this trade is our roster stocked up? Do we have as many things that we have to go out there and find in the future years? And the answer is no.
Yeah, and like we keep saying, the cap goes up by $25 million a year. You can pay pretty much everybody if you really want to. You can pay Woolen, you can pay Mafe if you really want to. Now, I feel like Mafe might have to be a part of a Parsons trade anyway. So I think that would kind of take that off the board.
Yeah.
But
agreed.
Even if he's not, again, that's kind of the big thing that I'm really starting to understand here. This cap is never going to stop going up. The NFL is going to find new ways to make money every offseason. Look at all the money they're making us spend on streaming services so we can watch these games. That money's going to the NFL. That money's increasing the cap. Look at all the money you have to spend to go to a game. And those games still sell out no matter what they do. So that money's going to keep going into the cap. It's never going to stop. And worrying about, 42 million instead of 44 million or something, it gives us something to do, but I'm starting to learn it doesn't matter as much as we have maybe initially thought.
No. And especially to me, again, back to the 2 things that have really changed this, I think, from where they were, and part of where you may have been right on this 10 years ago and looking at it that way, Brendan, are voidable years, which weren't as much of a thing 10 years ago. You're throwing void years on the end of deals to bump the numbers up. And then the other part of this is the option bonus. It used to be base and bonus money that made these contract extensions up. Now it's base, bonus money, and option bonus. So the option bonus hits later down on the contract. The player still gets his guarantee, but it's hitting later now as opposed to hitting at the front. It splits 4 ways off the bonus. So there's ways to make this happen more easier than ever before, too, to accommodate everybody if you need to.
Right. Seth, thank you for the $1.99. Micah said he would love to play for Dirt again.
Yeah. He's spoken about Mike McDonald's praises too, hasn't he, at some point or another? I want to say he's spoken to his defense in tacit and in passing.
I feel like if you listen to his podcast, he praises everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like he's nice to everybody. He's like Chris Collinsworth or something. Nice to everybody.
There we go. Okay. Well, and I that connection's a real one here. And if Dirty's a very important part of this, because he's the guy that if John's going to make this deal, he's going to have long conversations with Dirty. He's going to be picking his ear on everything having to do with Micah before he gets down this line. So if Dirty's pounding the table, if Dirty's saying, you guys got to make this move, Jerry's a moron. Jerry's lost his mind. He's dementia laden at this point. Let's jump on this. I think as John's perspective, that's got to carry some kind of weight, having a guy in the room that's been, connected, especially if he is truly becomes available, which we'll see on that part.
Yeah, it's what time is it in Dallas right now? It's like 4 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably sundowning right now. He's probably starting to sundown right this very moment.
He's mid-nap, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now's the time to call.
He's waking up. Micah. That's how he's waking up every time now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's how he sleeps. By
Yeah.
That's him sleeping. Micah.
Yeah. Call him constantly in the late afternoon, early evening hours. He's sundowning. You're going to be able to get something done. Eventually, he's just going to say, yeah, sure, whatever. He's going to think he's ordering a pizza.
Oh, yeah. Like with pepperoni, and you can have Micah, and we get some Mafe fries, and that'll be good.
The pizza places I go to never have fries.
No, they don't. They need to have fries. I need that combination.
Yeah, I remember Pizza Hut kept saying they would have fries, and then you go and they never have fries.
Weird.
Yeah.
They do a burrito and fries down here in Southern California. So that's an interesting combo too. But
yeah, every time I say Aiden Dirty, somebody tells me it's pronounced Dirt, and then every time I say Dirt, somebody tells me that it's pronounced Dirty. So I don't know what it is anymore.
I know. Same thing with me too.
Mm-hmm. Martin, thank you for the £5 or €5, one of the two. I think Darnold will be good, maybe not as good as we hope, probably not as bad as many expect. He'll be desperate to show last year wasn't a one-off.
Yeah, it's hard to know which end of the scale as far as do we get the best version of him? Do we just get a good version of him? That part I don't know. I do think that we don't get a bad version of him. That's the part where I just feel very solid on this ground of that. If I'm getting a bad version of Darnold and I'm watching through the 3 days of camp, I'm getting much more of a feel of that than I did. And he's so steady. He's so in control in what he's doing right there. He just looks like a vet quarterback that's been around the block a couple of times. He's learned a thing or two, and he's ready to roll off the back of that. And there's a varying level of success with that and what it could be, but I think it's a level of success nonetheless.
Yeah, I think we should be able to, at the very least, protect him. Like, this is going to be a run-first offense. This is going to be a defense-led team. We have seen quarterbacks who are worse than Sam Darnold have success on these stacked teams. What was it, 8 years ago, the 4 quarterbacks that made the conference championship game were Tom Brady, Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, Nick Foles, right? Like it happens. And some people are going to say, oh, it doesn't happen anymore. I don't think so. I think things are regressing back to where something like that can happen much more reasonably.
Yeah. To your point, we've gone back to more of running the football, and that's become the last 2 years that has risen up in a way that right as the offense was just about to take over, right as the offenses were about to become 75% pass happy fests, something odd happened on the way to Albuquerque. And suddenly now the cover 2 shell comes in, and now teams run the ball. And now it becomes a little bit more balanced offensively, where running backs come back more into the fray. The offensive line comes more back into the fray. It's not just the quarterbacks and receivers anymore. And that's where we are at right now, to your point on the evolution of the sport and where it's at cylindrically right now and what wins and what doesn't win. And so it's less at this moment right now than it was even 4 years ago on the back of a quarterback carrying the day for you. It's about the team right now. Now it might change 3 years from now and go back to quarterbacks running the day. But this year, this upcoming season, the back of last year with you running more 20 personnel NFL wide than ever before in recent years, to me, that's an indicator that this can be done with a quarterback that's just merely good, doesn't have to be great. And you can be great as a team with just a merely good quarterback.
Yeah, I think that we have great evidence of that right now because of what the Eagles have just done. I still don't think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I think he's fine, but there are some big gaps in his skill set. He is a blunderbuss on those intermediate throws.
Yep. I agree. I think he's a fine quarterback, but he ain't top 5. He ain't close to top 5. He's a good quarterback, but it's a great team, and they won a championship on the back of it. By the way, taking down the great quarterback on the other side of his era. And and they almost did it twice. They almost did it a couple of years ago when Hurts and company were there doing it to it too as well. So it took an official's call basically to save the Chiefs' butt in that particular game. So I go to, this is where the trend's at. We're in the right place for where this trend is drifting.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And look at the quarterbacks that Hurts beat on his way to the Super Bowl last year. Guys who were almost certainly better than him. Jordan Love, maybe. Stafford, definitely. Jane Daniels, I think so.
Yep.
And of course, Pat Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in football.
Right. But everyone wants to say it's always the better quarterback that wins. It's like, no, that's a simplistic way of looking at it. It is a team sport still. It's a team driving it.
Yeah. And the score was 34-0 too. It's not like it was close. It's not like Saquon Barkley ran for 300 yards in that game. He ran for 30? He did nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. I think we're in this place right now. And I think people are a little bit trapped in the moment where I think they still be stuck from 5 years ago where it seemed like everything was just going to become pass happy to the nth degree. And that's where the sport was going to go. And it was just going to be run for show as we went in the future. And now it's become run to win now is becoming more of the onus here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so back to this preseason game real quick. Another thing that I'm thinking about, because Mike McDonald has already said this guy's going to get to play, Elijah Arroyo. What is your impression of Arroyo from camp? Because I've heard good, and then I've heard some not so good. I've heard of wide variety of things on Elijah. What do you think?
Well, I guess on Monday's practice, he had 100 yards receiving, and he was just awesome. He was fine out there from what I saw with him in camp. There was a drop or two that I saw mixed in. He looks big and he moves well for his size, but did I see a skill set out there that screams second round pick to me? No. Mm-hmm. But he certainly, you can see that there's a fluidity to how he moves on the field that does stand out again for a guy's size. And he does move fast for a guy his size, but nothing was blowing me away about what I saw at Arroyo in camp.
Yeah. So when I was talking about Arroyo after the draft, because we didn't stream for a couple months there, so we only had limited opportunities to talk, but it seems to me that the horse that people are betting on with Arroyo is that he was injured all of last season, and that's why he looked relatively unathletic on the field, and that now he's better. There seems to be some belief that he's actually a 4.5 40 guy, but he only ran a 4.7 at the combine because he was hurt. He only looked like a 4.7 guy on the field last year for Miami because he was hurt. That seems to be the horse that people are betting on when they're trying to say that this guy's really good. Do you think there's anything there?
I mean, I hear the same things you hear with this, but I can only go off of my evaluation, your evaluation that we looked at him when him coming out of college. And you have a guy that barely played in college, barely played. Injuries were an issue with him in college. Injuries then became an issue with him going through the pre-draft evaluation process at the Senior Bowl when he's testing. So you just don't have a lot of data to go back off of this guy. And the tape last year is all of the tape that you have to operate off of. And it wasn't like he was highly featured in that Miami offense either. And there's just it's sample size to the nth degree here with this kid as far as trying to make an evaluation off of him. I didn't see anything diametrically different with him on the football field right now than what I had seen with him off the last year of college. I didn't see a guy that's suddenly moving with a little bit extra burst and a little extra gear that he just didn't have last year. I just didn't. I'm hopeful for it. I want to see it. Definitely do, Brennan. But, he wasn't a guy that was doing a ton of flashing here in camp when there were some other rookies who were flashing, like a Horton, like an Emawari. You're feeling their presence out there and they're making some impact.
Yeah, that I think is the player we drafted that I struggle with the most to even understand the logic behind it. I really am not a Milroe fan, but I kind of get it. I see the talent, at least. There's a lot of talent in Milroe. There is. I don't think it's going to turn him into a great player by itself, but I see the talent. Arroyo, I'm interested to see what he does on the field, because I don't know if I really see the upper level talent, because I'm sure you've heard there are people out there who say that this guy was going to be a top 15 pick. This guy's a top 15 talent. And I don't get that at all.
I don't understand it either. I've missed the boat on this one. And there's certain draft prospects every year that I will acknowledge that I'm just not quite locking into as the way that other people are locking into with it. I can't think of another tight end in recent history that gets talked up this much, who played this infrequently in college football, who's got this injury history that he's piled on. But people talk about him like he's the next greatest thing since sliced bread since coming out. And I just don't understand what they saw in the tape that made them think that. There are highlight plays. There are highlight plays for a lot of tight ends throughout the college football. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily who they are playing and play out. And you do have to acknowledge with him that he's never going to be a top end blocker for the position. He will be an H-back. He will be maybe a wide receiver at times. I'm hopeful that they've seen something that I haven't seen, but I'm also not going to invent and say that I saw something that I haven't. And with him, I just haven't quite seen that same level that other people see. I'm encouraged there's so many that do see it, Brendan, because it makes me think that maybe I am missing something here. And I hope I am. I really do, because if Arroyo's awesome, if he can be a Jimmy Graham type talent and what that can do for the offense, it would be absolutely tremendous. but didn't necessarily see on my days. And again, he's had a great week this week so far, including Monday. It sounds like he tore it up. But just in my 3 days of watching the scrimmage, I just didn't get a great feel in that way that others are talking about him with.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am as well. Defensive side of the ball, he did say that Emin would play. I want to see where he gets deployed. I want to see, is it corner? Is it linebacker? Is it safety? Is he moving around? Is he lining up at edge? Because one thing I heard from camp was that they're letting him line up at edge here and there so he can work on his blitzing. I want to see where he ends up getting deployed. That's going to be really exciting to me tomorrow.
Yeah, and I did see him a bunch up on the line of scrimmage, and he's comfortable doing it, and he looks big coming off that edge. So Emawari be probably the main guys we need. We're going to be resting a lot of our defensive guys here, so you're not going to see a ton of runs of guys like Byron Murphy out there or anything. So I think when it comes to defensive side of the ball, the corner room, you're looking for a little bit of solidification on the back end of the depth there, I think. I believe that right now where you're at with the safety position is you're pretty much getting close to, I think, locking in on where you're at with your four there, D'Anthony Thomas, and you're going to probably have Ty Akata actually back there, and then you probably carry Emawari as sort of a fifth safety / quasi cornerback role and how you roll it. But I think that thing's kind of been established at this point of where it stands, the safety room, based on what I was seeing in practice. So there's not a lot there defensively, I think, to, your Peely. Can he be a nose tackle in there? He's flashed in camp. Can he show more consistency to take a little bit more of that nose tackle position over so you feel a little more solid there? So Murphy's not going to have to play nose tackle this year. That's maybe something to kind of look at. Bohanna's been active as well as a defensive tackle, and he'll get a lot of run in this game. But there's not going to be a lot you need to see on defense. You know what you got. You got your starters returning. You got the 15 guys that have started games last year returning. It's more of the offense, I think, and the rookies on this in general that you're kind of side-eyeing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Jarek Reed's kind of DOA then?
Yeah, I didn't seem like he was getting as much run of Akata was out there at the free safety position, and I didn't see him do a lot when he was out there either. So I think that's I think the team just has a general leaning towards Akata on this one.
Yeah, somebody in this front office might lose their job in the next couple of weeks then, because we theorized at the time somebody in the scouting department was really pounding the table for Reed because he was one of those guys that clearly somebody had something highly invested into. So I wonder.
Yeah, it might be. The other thing too is he had that ACL. Maybe he isn't able to come back from that ACL at the same place he was prior to it.
And I think that's about it. Do you have anything else you're thinking about for tomorrow night beyond what we've already discussed?
No, just get out healthy. Run the rock, continue to establish that part of it. Milroe is obviously a guy we're going to be, I guess, is a final thing to keep an eye on. He's going to get a lot of run. And I think, as you mentioned with Milroe, I agree with you on the Royo to Milroe thing. The thing I come back to Milroe is whether he develops or not over the next 2 years, you're going to be able to use him in select packages. And Brendan, he's going to be effective in those packages. They were having him run the read option stuff a lot in practice. And he is the best play action guy on the roster from the quarterback position, meaning when he's RPOing it, he's one of those RPO guys that can really magician, get it into the belly and pull it back at the last, and your eyes are going to the running back, and then he's scooting around the backside of the pocket after he's kept it. A lot of that. And his explosiveness and his getting down the field fast is going to work on an NFL field. He's going to just be faster than guys can sometimes get to him. And you can use him in that little sub-package role to get some effectiveness out of him, whether he develops long-term or not. But with Milroe, he actually had some really nice wild throws for me in camp. Him and Tyron Bowden are just locked in on the same page right now on a couple of those throws, big-time throws. You get the bad with it too, so you're going to get both of those in the preseason game. I think with Milroe, you're going to get both ends of it a little bit and how you feel from him on it. And you're going to understand, okay, work in progress, but still, let's get him a lot of run. It's going to be fun to watch and see if over this preseason and playing a lot of run, he can continue to develop.
We got to get Broden on the practice squad. That guy's fun. That guy's fun to have around.
Milroe's going to have him make the practice squad just with those guys' connection alone, because he's hit him on a couple of big plays down the sideline, and it's just been like balls on the right spot. He just likes throwing to that guy. So I think he's going to thank Jalen for probably getting him locked up on the PS.
If we can get him there, for all we know, I guess. If he's too good, somebody will steal him. So he can't do too much. He can't do too much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be like that. The final scene in The Incredibles when Dash is like not winning the race because he knows he could win the race too easily, so he like comes in third or whatever. That's what it's going to be like.
Oh, I bet. Well, I don't need to see a lot of those snaps then if it's all good. We can just get him out there for the little in and out. If he makes one big catch, we're like, all right, we know we're going to do with him this year. Let's just Derek Young out there. Let's get White out there. Let's have those guys run. We'll just kind of put him, stash him here. A little stash.
Yeah. Do you think he's actually 6'7", or is he more like 6'5"? What do you think?
No, he's 6'5". He's 6'5". Okay. Mike McDonald corrected that on the presser the other day. He's like, yeah, he's not 6'7".
Yeah. Upo, thank you for the $10. Hey guys, I just joined a few minutes ago, but I'll go back and watch it all. Just appreciate you both. Go Hawks.
Thank you, Upo. Appreciate you, man. Go Hawks. Thank you for watching. And thank you guys for all of your kind donations today. Amazing as ever on the channel.
Yep. Thank you, Upo. I think that's super chat number 20 total on our two streams combined.
Let's go. Love it.
Okay. So let's see here. So a couple things that I want to talk about real quick before we wrap up here, because I think that's all we can really talk about right now.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I would say, first of all, that tomorrow is obviously you're going to be doing a play. You're doing play-by-play.
I am indeed.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. I'm not doing play-by-play. I will do a play-by-play of one of the preseason games later, but not this one. I'm just not sure which one yet. So definitely check that out. Right after the game ends, like literally within 5 minutes of the game ending, I'm going to go live on the Bleacher Report for half an hour to talk about the game. Whatever happened, we're just going to discuss it. Get the Bleacher Report app, make an account if you want to comment on the stream, and keep an eye out for post-game stuff. I'm probably going to get a post-game video up that night. Might stream on YouTube that night as well. I know it's going to be late. I know that it's going to be like 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. on the East Coast by the time I'm doing that, but whatever. Some people stay up that late. Sometimes I do.
Sometimes you get good eye-ins at that time.
Yeah. And by the way, I am now posting 4 videos, shorter videos, like about 2-3 minutes long a week on Bleacher Report. So keep an eye on that, available through the app and through the website now as well. You can actually watch those videos.
Let's go.
And that is basically what is going on. Thanks for doing this with me, Brandon.
Always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this season, man. I have a lot of fun and hopefully a great team to follow.
I think we're gonna be more happy than upset. I feel like there's gonna be more post-game videos where we're celebrating a win than upset over a loss. I'll at least say that. I'd be very surprised if this was just a bad team.
I agree. I think that they put the horses in the right places at this point. Don't know if it's going to get to the upside, the far upside. I think that's coming one point or another, but I think it'll be fun games. We're going to watch a well-coached team that's got a plan of attack, the offense and defense working together in tandem on this. It's good. The plan's going to make sense to us, and it's going to be fun to watch.
All right. 29 hours, guys. 29 hours until kickoff approximately. Suit up. Get ready for it. Me and Brandon are probably going to do this again in a week before the next preseason game, approximately. And who's the next opponent? Kansas City?
That's right.
All right, Kansas City. So see you guys then. But there's going to be plenty of stuff from both of us between then and now. So see you guys soon. And we got to hit it because
got to let them know.
The game's here. I mean, the season's basically here. There's nothing left to say except go Hawks.
Go Hawks.